No, not at all. No.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just figuring out just getting all loaded for the mic and audio. That's all.
Thank you. Jesse, bam, we're live.
That's sweet.
We did it.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I watched that video that Justin made. I'm gonna guess it's like a year old. He's visiting your gym.
Oh yeah, the Squamish one. Yeah, that's it's almost exactly a year old. Yep.
And how many gyms do you have?
Oh, just one.
Okay.
Barely managed that one.
That gym reminds me of like when you go to some guy's garage and he's like a master craftsman. Like he builds like one-off chairs and shit. You know what I mean?
That's actually what I did for a little while. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You were a woodworker?
Yeah, I went to school for like fine furniture, cabinetry. Yeah, first year apprentice.
Wow. God,
Yeah.
I don't feel dumb for making that comparison now. I cannot believe how meticulous and perfect and clean. It's like a congratulations. I mean, I've seen, thousands of videos, I feel like that, kind of, I wouldn't say, gym tours. And I've never seen one quite like that. It is a place where you go to work on something you love. Like the tools are as important as anything. I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, no, it's a lot of that was our third iteration. So we started in a different space 13 and a half years ago, and then moved to a second gym location. And then finally that's our third version. So that's my best one yet, I guess.
And you love going there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It looks like it. You made it so it's a place where you walk in and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, we did it ourselves. Like we don't own the building, but I took over as a general contractor like once the building was sort of locked up. And everything you see in there, like we did. So like all the woodworking is my own, and anything that was like outside of my wheelhouse or I wasn't super good at, then we pulled people from the gym. So it's like all community driven. So people from the gym did like all the specialty work and everything. And there's steel. We build a lot of stuff. So some of the steel work in there is like training partners and everything else. Super cool. Yeah.
Well, a beautiful facility. Obviously, you're making incredible athletes over there. But let's stop fucking around. What the fuck is up with this stance?
Oh, that's Frog.
Tell me, how have I never seen this? Is it because I'm a dipshit and I'm not paying close attention?
No, it's not super common.
This is a 341-pound deadlift, ladies and gentlemen, by a 17-year-old pro BMX rider. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's a woman. I've never deadlifted 341 pounds myself. First of all, tell me about that stance.
Yeah, it's just a variation, right? So we use conjugate system.
And we'll come back to that because I don't even know what that is, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah. So it's just a variation. So it's not like her primary, like her best pull is like 380. And so she'll pull sumo conventional, frog, ultra wide, all those variations we have maxes and numbers for. So this is just a good variation. And it's actually like some CrossFitters will actually end up hitting a PR with that narrower stance. Just change the style a bit. A lot of people often just are a little too wide with their feet. And just bringing them in at all. But, for almost everybody, that's going to be just not their optimal stance. A little wider is going to help. But just a variation.
And are her heels actually touching?
Yeah, we go heels touching, feet on a 45-degree angle. Yeah.
Why have I never seen this? Am I not paying attention? How rare is this? This is like I when I saw this, at first I thought, oh, they're fooling around. It's like Halloween or something.
Yeah, no, it's I guess I don't know. I guess you wouldn't see it very often outside of like the world that we're in. But I mean, like Ohio West Side sweatshop, like this would be something that everyone's kind of playing with. I mean, you see it from photos in the 70s and stuff like that for sure. There's a couple guys. Who I struggle with the names from the past, but but there's guys who have like 365 deadlift with heels touching. Yeah.
Here's a 17-year-old girl doing it with 341. Is this something that every CrossFitter should be doing? Is this like, hey, I mean, not necessarily need to do it this heavy, but this is like, hey, this is an important part of the constantly vary piece. Like, hey, you're just doing strong and conventional.
I
Maybe
think so,
some
for
of you
sure.
do sumo, but everyone's missing frog.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, deadlift is an interesting one with the CrossFit world, for sure. And I think of all the movements that that CrossFitters use, deadlift probably has the most to grow for skill set and then just variations of. Like, just because it doesn't show up in competition doesn't mean that it's not a valuable lift to train, right? Like, squats, will front squat, overhead squat, back squat, almost, everybody's doing that, and then cleans and squat, snatch are all good variations, but or their own thing. But deadlift is just like, either people conventional deadlift or they don't deadlift at all for the most part. And I mean, I think variations are really worth putting time into, especially because sometimes you can find quite a large discrepancy between a sumo and a conventional. And that sort of gives some good indication of where some weaknesses may lie and what might be worth putting extra time into as an athlete.
Everything else is the same about this deadlift?
Yeah, totally.
Conventional deadlift? Because it looks the same to me. And she looks like she's, for a lift I've never seen before, I'm going to say she's doing it perfectly.
She's a very good lifter. Yeah, I like Teague's awesome. Like, she's in Europe right now training there, and she's been lifting with us. She's actually Gen 1 CrossFit kid. So she's more than 10 years into training with us. Yeah, she's like 141 pounds body weight, 380 deadlift. But all of them are tight, right? So that's 340. I think her conventional is 365 and her sumo is 380, which is kind of like the spread we're looking for, right? So like very low discrepancy.
And is she tall?
5'8", I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's tall.
That's tall
for a woman.
She's lean and tall. Yeah. I mean, yeah, she's a really cool example for us, because she's also someone who, I mean, we predominantly have used conjugate method in powerlifting to build her. And, I mean, she's got like a 48.5-inch box jump, and like, just real powerful athlete in a power sport. Right. Yeah.
Tell me, what is the conjugate method?
So conjugate method
first of all, before I ask you that, can you tell me? Meaning, like, okay.
Conjugate method is like, it originated in Russia, right? So it was like, it's a system that's like, I mean, if you're going to put it real simple, you're going to say kind of the same things as CrossFit: constantly varied, functional movement as it pertains to your objective, which would be, squat, bench, dead in the nature, or the case of powerlifting, or, snatch, clean, and jerk in the case of weightlifting. And then performed at high intensity. So working as hard as you can. So, it's a system using sort of a ton of movement pattern to build the primary lifts. So Russia started it. Louis Simmons of Westside Barbell found it and kind of ran it with his own direction. So originally it's the system Russia used for weightlifting. So it was a Russian weightlifting system. China used it as well to model their Chinese weightlifting system, which is why you see, I don't know, when you talk to those guys, like, I don't want to speak past my sort of like what I can say for sure, but I mean, when you listen to the Chinese coaches and those guys speak, you're kind of feeling like you're hearing the same thing. So like a ton of accessory work and like movements that are variants used to build snatch and clean and jerk. And so Louis and Westside Barbell took that system, adapted it, and started, he ran Westside Barbell until he passed, I don't know, maybe I think a year or 2 years ago. But it's built world champions, and it's really cool because he applied it not only to powerlifters very, very successfully, like strongest gym on the planet. He also applied it to a ton of sport athletes, from, UFC fighters to Olympic sprinters, and saw huge progress and gains for them. I mean, to be honest, like I actually found it, video of CrossFit Journal. I mean, I don't know, maybe 11 years ago, of Dave Castro out at this weird gym in Columbus, Ohio, pulling like a sled with his like hands below his knees, and then like pulling a dragon sled like that across the yard. And it kind of piqued my interest. And so I found Westside through CrossFit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Is the conjugate system, is there anything definitive about it in terms of its time? Like all the cycles are 9 weeks, or
yeah,
it's always 3 steps forward, 1 steps back. It's raised the weight 3. Is there anything like that? Are there any percentages that they're dogmatic about? Anything dogmatic about it like that? That defines it. I don't mean that with a negative connotation.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah, so you've got sort of 4 primary days a week. So you got 2 max effort days, 1 upper, 1 lower, and you got 2 dynamic effort days, 1 upper, 1 lower.
Okay. And then, when you say upper, 1 lower, what does that mean?
So specifically as it relates to powerlifting, it'd be upper days would be bench or pressing patterns.
Okay.
And then lower would be squat or dead.
Okay, so upper body, lower body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. Two max efforts a week in each of those.
Yeah. No, 1 for max, 1 for upper, 1 for lower. So
okay.
For us, like what did we do? Sort of last Monday we did a 3 rep max good morning. And then last Wednesday we did a 1 rep max 2 board bench. And then go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And then Fridays are like speed days. So that's like dynamic efforts are going to be, that's where we apply bands or chains to the bar. So we'll do squat and deadlift, both with bands predominantly. But done like, we'll do 12 sets of 2 on the 45 seconds or on the minute for squats. And then, 12 singles on the 30 seconds or 45 seconds for dead. And the waves for those days. So maxes cycle out every week. And then dynamic efforts cycle out usually every 3 weeks. But I mean, there are, in general, that'd be how it kind of moves through.
And bands and chains, are those required pieces of equipment for conjugate? For the strength training?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would no, but it is optimal.
Okay, almost always seen. If someone's in the they have, those are some of the tools
totally
that they use. Okay.
Yeah, the dynamic efforts just aren't the same without that band applied, because you're looking to sort of have that accommodating resistance. So the change in tension from the bottom of the lift to the top of the lift. So you're looking to sort of force that accelerating speed. So, you can there's ways of cycling without it, but eventually that's kind of where you're going to end up. So for building like explosive power, that would be what we predominantly lean on for our sport athletes.
Okay, that makes sense. Pardon me here a minute. I wish you didn't have to see this ugly side of my family here. Trish, Sevan, you've been with CrossFit forever and you don't know what conjugate is. Listen, you ding dong. I know everything. The only reason why I have a podcast is to try to teach you guys shit. Podcast with me would be just me sitting here staring into the eyes of my guests. That being said, I have no idea what the conjugate system is. So no, you're right, Trish. There was one more in here. Oh, Heidi Kroom. So Russia started CrossFit. Not nice, Heidi. I see what you did there. I see what you twisted up there. Okay. Before the I am it's funny that you say that interesting that you say that the deadlift is in CrossFit is, what was the word you used? An area where there's still a lot of room to grow or explore.
Yeah, totally.
Because it also seems like it's one of the favorite lifts of CrossFitters, the deadlift, right? Basically just picking things off the ground. Don't CrossFitters just like to pick heavy shit off the ground? Like when I was introduced to the deadlift, I kind of got addicted to it.
Yeah,
but you're right. I only did conventional. I didn't do sumo. I didn't do frog. But I like picking stones off the ground, bars.
Totally.
I became kind of addicted to just picking shit off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, the deadlift is fantastic. I mean, it's amazing. So for powerlifting, the other two, so squat and bench press, both have a down before it goes back up. So you get to load into it, but the deadlift's up only, right? Okay. So the deadlift's just that raw starting strength. So it's just that barbell sits on the floor and you can either raise it or you can't. And even for equipped lifters, so people who would compete for powerlifting who have like suits. Have you ever seen that? Like the heavy. So like even for those, so like you put
those are the ones that kind of the shirts kind of
if
you keep it in the pathway,
it's crazy heavy duty. Exactly. Yeah. Super extreme. Like those guys. I mean, it's very different and it's it's definitely super hardcore, but I mean, you put a squat suit on and it changes your number dramatically on the squat. You put a bench shirt on, it changes that number dramatically on a bench. You put anything on for deadlift and it maybe gives you 50 pounds is what, I think most people would say. Again, I don't have a ton of experience in gear, but it's just cool. It's just something you just can't mess up with too much for, like, you can't cheat it. It's just like, throw a belt on and you got to work as hard as you can. So it's a great lift.
It is a belt exercise.
Say again?
It is a belt exercise, question mark.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Man, I need to own a belt. I'm 51. Is it too late for me to start incorporating a belt in?
I'd get a belt for sure.
Okay. Barry, look at everyone's excited. Barry McCockiner, 525 deadlift. Everyone wants to just like, I appreciate, and I respect this. This is crazy. That's a great lift, Barry. Geez Louise, 485. Awesome. Jeffrey Birchfield, I did 5x3 at 405 the other day. Not bad for a guy who's 112. Thason Hopper hit 450 deadlift last week, 230 squat, snatch Monday, and 305 clean and jerk yesterday. Dang, dude. Yeah, some strong cats in the audience. Okay. I had no idea we were going to start the show like this, but let's keep going with the deadlift. Okay. Pro beach volleyball player.
Yeah, Leanne.
Are you
she's such a stud. Me? Yeah, she's awesome.
Is it possible for every healthy, able-bodied person, and by healthy, I'm just saying, you can jog a 400-meter track. You got one pull-up. You can ride a bike. You know what I mean? You can wipe your own butt. You got some of the fundamentals down in life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's say under 60, to deadlift 400 pounds. Could you teach any human being to pick 400 pounds off the ground outside of like some sort of?
I say no.
No. Okay. That's what about 300?
Well, I guess men or women, I guess, would be the thing. I mean,
deadlift. This is a woman right here, right? 435. Yeah. This is mind-boggling.
Leanne's great.
This is like, I saw this. I'm like, you play volleyball? Why do I not? And she even got the volleyball sweatshirt on. Like, fuck you, I play volleyball.
Yeah. It's I mean, that's Sweatshop Cincinnati. So that's Shane Sweat's gym. One of his athletes. Like, I mean, Shane is a stud coach. That's who I do sort of our podcast with. He's been in the game for a long time. I mean, like, he's had lifters break all-time world records, like, time and time again. Like, huge lifting happens in Ohio. For us, we've been pushing that, like, chasing that 400 for women in our gym for a while. We've got maybe like 30 plus women over 300. And like, Teague's at 380. One of our girls just pull, I think
that's the 17-year-old girls at 380. You just
I mean, she turns 19 this summer. So that was 2 years ago. Can
every man do 400 pounds?
Well, I guess depending on like health and training volume, etc.
Yeah, outside of being, having some sort of permanent decrepitude. Like, can you teach let's just make it easy. Any 20-year-old kid who comes in off the street, if he puts in 10 years of work to deadlift 400 pounds?
Yeah, I think that feels pretty reasonable.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'd like to think that'd be the case. Yeah.
Sevan, you can't. I don't know. Maybe I could.
Yeah. Where are you deadlift at now?
I don't deadlift. I rarely deadlift over. The other day I deadlifted 165 for a bunch of reps in a CrossFit workout. Usually I do just 135 for sets of 10 somewhere in some sort of workout. But the other day, for the first time in probably 4 years, I did pull 295, and it came up kind of easy. Yeah. But then I visited it again like a week later, and it didn't come up at all. But I have serious mental issues. I have serious fear, like real fear.
Have you ever had any issues with deadlift before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like before I started CrossFit, I would hurt my back 4 times a year. I was immobilized, and then I started CrossFit, and I only started hurting it twice a year. But it was always fucking around with the deadlift, right?
Yeah.
And I would feel that like that ping, and then I would be crawling to the bathroom for a week.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming anyone but myself. It was always like, there were always signs.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that sucks. Like the deadlift gets a, bad rap for, beating people up and back issues. And then it sucks. Once people have a bad experience with it, it's like having a bad experience with a box jump. Like it's real hard to build that sort of confidence back up and push it again. But,
the box jumps in that category too.
Yeah, I would say like a box jump for sure. I mean,
you jump down and something. Is it your back or what goes out in the
no, just like if you fail a box jump, it's hard to build confidence. Like if you got someone who's jumping like high jumps and they have like a misstep and bail, it's hard for them to like regain that confidence. Because that's what it is. I mean, the other side of it too is if you know you've got sort of like, if you're getting breakdown on a pattern, then for us that'd be something where we start to look at why that would be, and then try to attack it with other means. So rather than build the deadlift by more deadlifts, we would build the deadlift off of like seeing where breakdown starts to occur, and then like applying accessory work to like fortify those areas, bring up those weaknesses, and then retest deadlift and see if it had a positive effect or not.
Yeah. Well, what would some of those movements be?
Depends where you're getting breakdown, but for deadlift, like in my experience, like it's been the difference between going from like a 300 to 400 dead and 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. Like it's kind of it's been a pretty cool road where I feel like every sort of 100 pounds, the deadlift asks like something different to you. So a lot of times at that base level, like the initial phase is just understanding the movement pattern and getting it right. So very common issue is to set the deadlift up the same way you would set up a clean or a snatch, where you're going to have the weight shifted just maybe a little bit more forward on the foot. The knees track a little more forward, so you get a more forward shin angle and the hips are lower. But the clean and the snatch are optimized for that movement from the knees to the hips, right? So you're trying to get the most out of a clean or snatch above the knees to apply that force to barbell. It's, no one's having a problem on their snatch or their clean from the floor to above the knees. But the deadlift, it all happens in that first couple inches in general, especially when you're new. So that position then is really important. So having a much steeper shin angle, the hips are a bunch higher, and being able to understand the basics of like bracing and position to make sure you're in a good start position, the weights, driven through the heels, dialing that in gets you your first, bunch of weights. And then you start to see sort of breakdown, but usually then it starts to occur through like that classic, like low back rounding, right? So either led from the upper folding or just that sort of, if they can get to the start position, their mobility is good. Wow. Right. So that they can set up a great like setup, then you're like, okay, they've got a place to start. And if they fail as they start to pull, then we know that it's something else. And usually it's bracing. So we pour a ton of effort into midline work.
Like things like sit-ups, GHD.
Yeah, some flexion extension patterns to the spine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, front squat. I mean, depends on the athlete. Like for sure, front squat for CrossFitters. Yeah, totally. Yeah, those sort of patterns.
Knees
like
to elbows.
We'll do strict toe to bar. Yeah, knees to elbows is a little more old school now. It feels like. I feel like those are the patterns that like, when was the last time we've seen those?
Those are great though.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I mean,
100%. You could destroy someone's midline with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just one of those funny ones from like CrossFit back in the day,
Right.
It just feels like knees to elbows is one that you're like, you just don't see that.
Plank
for sure. Yeah. Plank. So it's like isometric holds for sure with like tons and tons of variations. So like, variations on those patterns are going to be, like we'll have someone in a plank position up on like a bench with their hands and box with their feet. And they would sort of like hang kettlebells off of bands at sort of that hip level. So instead of hanging plate weight off you, we would hang kettlebells and bands. And they might have someone do like cross-body shoulder touches. So they raise their hand off the bench, touch opposite shoulder. So something that sort of like forces like trying to create stability from instability. A lot of rotational work, like just lots of variation. I mean, same as CrossFit's doing, just as much variation as we can get. So we're not sort of like failing to adapt to stimulus, like changing as much as we can. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Classic.
Yeah. I remember seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah, things like that for sure. Trying to be creative. Like, I mean, there's always that component that, you know, one of the things I think that has made CrossFit super successful has been just that it's real fun, interesting, and different. Right. So then trying to apply that to accessory work and strength to keep the, you know, motivation there is like high value. So trying to incorporate new pieces and, you know, whatever we can get sort of positive changes from.
I used to trip on this too. Speaking of a breakdown position, whenever I would hang out with Rob Orlando, I'd be like, "Hey, that picking up the stone."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The picking up the stone is actually it's like the worst deadlift form, but actually, my back loves rounding like that when I pick things up. Like it, like it actually feels good.
Yeah, the stone is super cool. That first clip with the wall was one of our best strongman events we ever did. Was that wall stay? Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Well, let's take a break here for a second. Why? Before we go back to the stone.
Oh man, it was such a short time domain and just like soul crushing. Like some people still reach out and be like, dude, hardest event that I've done in my entire life.
Interesting. What's the stop? What's that look like when someone fails that?
There's spotters on both sides.
Okay.
So you see those guys in the background just chasing it with their hands.
Yeah.
And then there's tires in the ground as well. So it can't actually get all the way to the ground. So
okay.
Yeah. We got some crazy photos from that. It was super cool, man. Yeah, we made it plate loadable, so you can see on the top of that wall on the outside is like we built sort of like a way to slide plates on the end to like overload it. But yeah, I was working on a job site, and it just crossed my mind, like wondered what was the heaviest wall one person could possibly stand by themselves. And so we turned it into an event. So we put that wall on like a hinge at the bottom. And worked it. So that one video, that clip at the start is actually one of the strongest men in Western Canada. He came out and did the event. Yeah, it was. So
there's a hinge at the bottom, meaning that thing can't slide.
No, can't slide at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on a hinge and all. Yeah, we're good at building things. Actually, so I guess the point with the stone piece. Yeah, really interesting, right? So it's something that, like, for sure, because
it's everything you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, stone is so cool. I mean, I love stones. We do quite a bit of stone work, and the stone pick is different, right? Because one, you think of the deadlift bar where your hands go, your mid shins, right? But a stone is not only like at the ground; it's like your wrists bend to get under the stone, so it's like so low. Right. So it's a much deeper pick for that start position. The difference and again, this is just my opinion, but in my opinion, a deadlift bar is optimized, right? So like if you got a CrossFit bar, you're like 28 mil, 20 and a half mil. If you got a deadlift bar, you're 27 mil. The knurling is super aggressive on a specialty bar. It's meant to be lifted. It's got the right whip. It's like the most weight you can lift, and everything is set up for you to be successful. A stone is the opposite of that. So even a light stone still takes substantial bracing.
So much of it's off your midline. It's like
you just have to grip it hard to have it come off the floor at all. So I think where on a deadlift, when you grip it and start your pull, because everything's set up, you mix your grip or you hook your thumbs, like all those sort of things it allows you to sort of still be successful when maybe you shouldn't, you know, so you can be kind of lazy, have your background and be like, this sucks, but I can still make it. But a stone, you're like, the bracing is so much that, like, especially if it's really heavy, if you back off your tension through your body just a bit, it's over. Like that stone goes straight back to the floor, and that's the end of it. So although you are getting a ton of flexion through that low back,
deadlift, you can almost kind of rest is a exaggeration, but you can lean back and as it's coming up and push it off your shins or whatever. You can
just have your background and still keep pulling because you can be relaxed and still lifting, but a stone you can't really be relaxed and still lifting. So that's
kind of, it's pulling you in more than one direction.
Yeah,
the bar's just like going up. The stone's actually trying to get away from you.
Yeah, and you got that crushing strength, so you're actually like, you know, squeezing it between your arms as hard as you can as well, and Yeah. Stone is a very special lift.
But what about the rounding of the back part? Why is that okay with stones and it's not okay with deadlift?
Well, I think because even though it's rounded,
yeah,
you still have a ton of systemic tension. Right?
Systemic, so it's not like meaning everywhere else there's tension.
Including there. Like, even though it's rounded, it's still braced and tight.
And it seems almost neglectful not to do stones, even if they're light, if you're going to be deadlifting just to help.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stones are I mean, honestly, if you're going to talk about functional movement and that you care and train for life or etc. I mean, if odd objects are not a part of that training, I mean, are you training for functional movement?
Right.
To its max capacity.
Right. And you do see those weirdos who like when they sumo, like their only deadlift is the sumo deadlift. Sorry to pick on them, but I think they're always like the super strong guys, but they can also barely reach the bar. So the guy's got an 800-pound deadlift, and it almost seems like he's in the sumo, and it's almost like he's reaching with his fingers to grab it. I just remember seeing Dave Tate do a demo for CrossFitters one time.
Oh yeah, Dave. Oh, well, so those are
this dude can barely fucking walk, but I just saw him pick up fucking 500 pounds like it was nothing.
Yeah,
but also he could barely get to the ground and pick it up. It was bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, Dave. I've never met Dave Tate, but like, that dude is a stud. He's amazing. Like he's one of the greatest
mobility. Stones will enforce mobility, right?
Yeah.
Like you're getting to the ground, or you're not playing that game.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but you're giving up something, right? So when Dave, the one thing to Dave has limited.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk shit about like the man.
No.
I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean Dave has limited ranges for sure. I remember those videos, actually, those originals. I think 3 or 4 of them on CrossFit Journal.
Yeah.
I was curious. I actually thought about that the other day and wondered if they're still up and around. They're good videos. I mean, that was the next. So after that video of Dave that I saw, Dave Castro, the next ones were those videos with Dave Tate, and that was like that kind of sealed it up for my interest, like because it just CrossFit or Conjugate just felt like the same things we were always talking about in CrossFit, just with a extended application, right? Anyway, though. Dave, I mean, he's like, as a lifter, like when you watch like Jamal Browner, like, that dude's arguably, maybe greatest of all time for sumo these days. He's like 242, like in that like 1,000+ range, like for sumo. And like, and you see like how he kind of like gets prepared to like reach to the bar that he's like tensioning. So a good deadlift, I mean, you want to feel like you can barely get to the bar, get your hands on it because everything is so tensioned and tight. And then as you press into the floor, that everything's there to support that sort of like leg drive and transfer all that force to the bar. I mean, the other thing with stones, before you get too far past that, is you're talking about moving a fraction of the way to your deadlift. Right? Okay. Like most people are talking about 50% or less, right? So on top of that, you're like, yes, you're in a suboptimal position. But I think between the like bracing and the fact that you're moving like a substantially lower weight, right? If you're a 300-pound deadlifter, I mean, you're probably best case working at like around 150-pound stone to load it to a table, and less if you're going to the shoulder.
An example would be, I guess, also looking at the sandbag at the games, right?
Oh,
although it's not a stone. You have this I don't know if cantankerous is the right word, but you have this object.
It definitely is.
It's not cooperating.
No.
It's got some weird gives in it, and it's definitely odd, and it probably more annoying than a stone.
Oh yeah. It's like, I would choose a stone over a sandbag 10 times out of 10 personally. Like give the opportunity to move those two things. Yeah.
Lots of questions coming to my head. Let me go back to the comments here real quick. They're piling up very quickly. I wanted to hear about your history. I might have to have you back on because I have a feeling we're gonna have another hour talk of I want to know about the rappelling from helicopters and all that.
Oh
shit. You're a man of adventure. Vincent Ramos, Jesse, can you please talk about the reverse hyper and benefits? It changed my life with 2 broke vertebrae. Oh, I've had a few of those. People always suggest the reverse hyper to me. Now I have an almost 500-pound deadlift. Vincent Ramos.
Thanks,
awesome. Vincent.
Nice.
Reverse
That's
hyper.
Fantastic.
Is it a must? Is it bad for anyone? Is it a must?
Is it a must? I mean, it's pretty valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never hear anyone poo-poo it. I never hear anyone poo-poo it.
Oh, people do for sure.
They do?
Yeah.
They do?
Oh, there's lots of people out there. Yeah, of course, always. Well, with anything, right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are so we have a full practice built in the gym as well. So we've got 3 massage therapists, 2 physios, chiro. So we have a pretty sort of well-rounded group of coaches and practitioners. And yeah, there are definitely some cases where, depending on how acute the back is, where you're like, yeah, that's not the time to be on the reverse hyper. But in general, for a healthy athlete, if your facility has the space, I mean,
you're saying it's, sorry to go back a second, you're saying it's a tool for a healthy back to prevent injury. It's not necessarily a tool to use to fix a busted up back.
No, you definitely can. Absolutely.
Okay.
You could definitely use it in the rehab process, but you just there's an acute phase, post injury, in that first little bit where it may not be the best choice. And you just got to sort of assess on those things. Right. And that's where we definitely work as a team of practitioners and coaches to give recommendations and advice. But yeah, for sure. I mean, our powerlifters and our sport athletes would use the reverse hyper in general at least twice a week. For CrossFitters who are competing, I would have them sort of be able to add that as extra work. I mean, we only have 2 hypers at the gym, so I can't have it as something we cycle into classes for everybody. And, but it is
for people who are listening, when he says he only has 2, most gyms have none and the lucky have 1. So when he says he only has 2,
yeah, if that's that's Louis Simmons' invention from Westside. But yeah, I think it was actually really interesting when the whole COVID stuff was happening, and we had, our rules were crazy and challenging, and not to spend any time on that, but there was a while where for 3 months we couldn't really use the reverse hypers, the GHD, equipment that you would kind of share. Everyone's kind of in their own space using their own things. And over that 3-month period, as we got to the end of that 3 months and started to be able to use stuff again, we started to see a whole bunch of stuff come up as issues and injuries with athletes that we just otherwise never deal with.
Because they didn't get back on them slowly. The 3-month break from a reverse hyper or a GHD.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say that it kind of usually takes about 3 months for stuff to wear off. So if you've been using equipment and you've used that for years, that it takes about 3 months for the value of those things to wear off and you be to kind of zeroed out again. So I feel that 3 months, back to, what it's like to not have those machines and the value of those implements used. And then as you got back into it, I mean, I don't think it had anything to do with those. It just was that 3-month time window where we started to see people my back's bugging me, my hamstrings give me a hard time.
Okay.
My hips are bothering me. All these things were man, these just aren't issues our gym deals with at all. We just don't have these kind of problems. And started to see that stuff creep in without sort of regular time spent on GHD, reverse hyper, and then the ATP, that belt squat machine as well. Yeah, those are really
we should talk about
those are staples for us, for sport athletes and powerlifters and competitive CrossFitters.
Is there a definitive place we could point to people who want to do reverse hyper? Hey, watch this video. This will explain to you that you're supposed to use it in the beginning of a workout. Start with this amount of weight.
Just type in Westside Barbell and reverse hyper on YouTube. Yeah, you'll get a bunch of video. I think there's some stuff with Kelly Starrett from back in the day as well. But there's lots of stuff with Louis. I think there's some video of him explaining it when the CrossFitters all that initial time when they took a bunch of HQ staff to Westside. I think there's some of that video still up there on YouTube of him explaining it and talking it through those guys. And yeah.
Jesse, but what this guy's saying here, Vincent, is saying it changed my life with 2 broken vertebrae.
Yeah.
That's not the first time you've heard that, right?
Not at all.
Claim that the reverse hyper has saved their back, right? It's a common.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, it is. It is something you do see quite a bit. I mean, Louis invented it because he broke his back twice, and says that he wouldn't have. I mean, Westside wouldn't exist, and that he wouldn't have made it to where he did as a powerlifter had he not built the reverse hyper.
Is it kind of the same strengthening? The yoga people will do this thing. I guess we call it a Superman, where basically you lay on your stomach with your arms in front of you.
Yeah, raise your hands and feet off the
gently
floor.
lift your hands, off in arms off the ground.
Yeah.
It's I mean, similar stimulus.
It's another stimulus. I mean, the hyper, you're getting that sort of like, you're getting that forward range as well, right? So you're getting a pretty large range of motion. So at the front of that, we're actually going to try to like let the pelvis tilt and roll almost like a little bit under the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which you're not getting when you're laying flat on the ground at all.
Totally. So you're just getting that hyper extension. Like you're getting that extension range, like on a more traditional, like the old school, like Globo Gym 45-degree, like back extension or,
the reverse hyper is it's not as potent as the GHD. By that the GHD sit-up. By that I mean, there was a time in my life where I could just go in the gym and do 50 GHD, 10 pull-ups, 5 rounds, and I would barely be sore, even though I just did 250. But if I did like 5 GHD today, I would be fucking sore as fuck for a week. Just going through that range of motion. Is the reverse hyper as potent as that? Like it could just fuck someone up like that?
No.
Okay.
No.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
GHD sit up, like,
definitely.
Yeah. You take some time off and you're fucked.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So you have to be, you have to have a current inoculation to it.
Yeah. Great. Inoculation. Yeah. It is strong like that. Okay. I like that.
Yeah, totally.
Jacob Dickinson, Jesse's an awesome guy and a great source of knowledge.
That's nice to say.
That's for sure. Well, it also comes, you don't have to scratch the surface very deep to right away start to trust you. Eaton Beaver, 500-pound deadlift, no back issues, 3 minutes with a weed eater, back is smoke.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Volume.
Real life story, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, there's one thing that's always like so awesome about strength is like there's different kinds of strength, right? So it's like there's strength endurance, speed strength, speed, absolute strength. Like, there's like strength isn't just one thing. So it's kind of cool to be like, yeah, there's the difference of like, that's why 1 rep maxes are so awesome. Is because that's absolute strength. And you just can't display that other ways. Because
they are awesome. God, I love you. They are awesome. Let me tell you some things that like I hear. Stop deadlifting. It's dangerous. It's not worth the risk.
Sure.
For profit. For gain. Would never do 1 rep lifts.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, classic.
But these are not. You do not prescribe to these.
No.
Subscribe. Not prescribe. Really. You don't prescribe or subscribe.
Yeah, that's true. Actually. Yep.
And would it just come down to safety and efficacy of the program that you're on, that you would say, it's the right coaches?
Yeah, I think totally. I mean, all those elements those are all factors for sure. I mean, like, Justin Ellie will do maxes every week, right up to whatever we are. We'll be 10 days or 14 days out from the games. We'll still be working maxes. I mean, that. Like there's a lot of pieces to maxes. So like one is having a facility that supports those being done successfully. Right. So like with a back squat, we would never drop a barbell. So a back squat bar, front squat, of course, overhead squat, of course. The safest thing you could do if it's not going well is to dump the bar. Right. And then practice that skill. But for a back squat, we would never dump a bar. Because it's not the safest way to do it.
Because it could roll down your spine, hit your butt.
Absolutely. It's bad. I've seen it a couple of times over the years, and you're like, it's the worst. Like athlete goes to dump it, catches them and yanks them over backwards. They fall backwards with it. Like, I mean, you scan YouTube for what happens when back squats go poorly, right?
So for us, do you do them in a rack or with spotters or both?
We do them. Yeah. We would say like, if you have the opportunity and you can train out of a rack, figure out in your warm-up sets where those safeties go, but don't pull the safeties on a rack. I mean,
why would anyone do that? Why would people do it?
Because they're just like, can't be bothered to set them up at the right height. Like just pull them out. Cause they're like, well, it's going to be fine. And what could go wrong? But I mean, the more time you do things, the more times there's opportunity for things to go wrong. And, I blacked out, it was a bunch of years ago now, but I blacked out on for doing reps on a safety squat, once. Didn't see it coming at all. Had 2 awesome dudes who I'd trained with always spotting me. And it just happened so quick that, neither guy had a reasonable chance of even grabbing the bar. And it just wasn't a big deal. I mean, the bar bounced on the safety
What kind of
pins.
Squat? You called it a what kind of squat?
The safety squat. So the one with the pad and the
okay.
The kind of a horseshoe pad.
And what do you mean it happened so quick? You didn't get like a wah, wah, wah.
Not at all.
Rep,
no.
Nothing.
Yeah. I stood up like, it was like rep 8. I stood up at the top and like my stomach kind of gave a spin and I was,
your stomach.
Didn't think twice about it and then went back down and started to come out of the hole and just like clicked off. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's the only time it's happened on a squat. Yeah. And so like it went straight to the safety pins.
What do you think it was? Would you attribute to like I didn't have enough coffee that morning, or I put my right sock on first, or I took my left sock, or like...
it's the safety squat can, especially like I find I think like tension through neck is like a blood choke, right? That's why it like ends up happening.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like for me it felt like that, like it just was finally enough pressure that it just like it was super brief, like it was just off and on, just a flip of the switch.
Does it kind of feel like a Medal of Honor? Did you get that? Like kind of like
no,
I don't
like that sort of stuff.
I was thinking it's like kind of cool, like check. No. Oh, that's cool.
That kind of stuff. I mean, throwing up on a lift and that sort of thing is just like, I mean, I prefer not to. Given the opportunity, I mean, try to always move as try to be as professional as we always can as a lifter and an athlete. Like move professional, move like a pro, behave like a pro, and then try to achieve those results best you can. But the point was just like with the safeties in place. I mean, I had a ton of wiggle room, so the bar bounced off the safety pins. I sort of like sat back, took 20 minutes. The other guys finished their maxes. And then I jumped in with them for accessory, carried on the session, no harm, no foul. But without the safety pins set either at an appropriate height or in at all, I mean, that could have been real rough. Secondary to that, I mean, honestly, for our CrossFit side, because CrossFitters at our gym will max out maybe not once a week, but it's pretty common to max out almost once a week for upper and lower. And same
tell
thing,
me those movements again. That would be press, overhead, bench press.
For a CrossFitter, it could be anything that's kind of a bench. Like it could be shoulder press, any sort of pressing pattern or upper.
What don't you max out? Would you max out a sumo deadlift high pull?
No, probably not. That's better as an accessory, a secondary piece. Okay, that's a good accessory or secondary. That's still pretty broad compound. So like if you were going to use that in training, I would have a tendency to use it as like maybe the third thing on the list.
And with that movement, there's it's like the kettlebell. There's a no man's land. By that I mean, in bench press, theoretically, you could stop the bar anywhere with any weight, right? You could stop it here. You could stop it here. You could stop it here. There's no but the sumo deadlift high pull, your max. There's a spot where you can't stop the bar. Same with the kettlebell, right? You're not. No one's stopping a 72-pound kettlebell out here.
Yeah, totally.
And so you don't is that a good litmus test for things not to do maxes with? Even the pull up, max pull up, you can stop anywhere.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean,
do you do max pull ups?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, both for load and for reps. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then all grips, right? Neutral, chin, pull, lat.
Like how about this movement? Lateral raises. You do max on that?
No, because again, that's sort of like that's an accessory in a feeder pattern, right? Like it's something where like we don't care about I guess it depends on what you care about. So like, I mean, I think I'm not exactly positive, but I think Louis Cyr, the Canadian from history, still holds the record at like I think his max hold in that lateral raise position is like 85-pound dumbbells.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I guess people do the iron. I mean, not I guess people do the iron cross.
Iron cross. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it depends on what your goal is. So I guess if you're asking for CrossFitters and like sport athletes, I'd say nah. Like we're probably not going to do that. I mean, sometimes you do stuff for fun. Like you can have something you're like, we'll just see what we can do for this movement or that, just for something to break up where things are at with training. Sort of like when training's super hard, sometimes it's nice to sub something in. It's just fun.
Brandon Waddell, reverse hyper was the best piece of equipment I've bought for my gym. It's been a lifesaver for my low back issues. Does everyone have low back issues?
A lot of people definitely have low back issues. I mean, it's a world of sitting. You
know? Blade Walker, I love deficit deads. I know,
yeah.
Me too. And I wish I didn't like them. It's to the point where I work them for strength more than regular deads. Is that a problem? Or is that just making me strong as fuck? Yeah, I sometimes wonder if I shouldn't be doing as many. Like, I don't ever do them heavy, but I like doing them too, just light.
Yeah, I mean, there's
because it feels good again, right? It's that stretching. It just feels good.
Yeah, that deeper position. I mean, yeah, for us, for sure, we're gonna work deficits on like different heights. I mean, Westside's had some big deficits. I think some of those guys have pulled like, I want to say like 8 or 10 inch deficit, which is, I mean, that's
with real weight, not just like
totally.
Like that's if I'm doing stuff like that, I'm doing it with just the kids bar, 20-pound bar or something.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We pull kind of like, we kind of top out about 4 inches. Like that's about as much of a deficit as we'll take. And then we'll work everything from like 4-inch deficit to rack pulls or block pulls where the bar is like elevated off the floor. There's some really cool ones because you can also pull specialty bar deadlift, right? Sorry. Is
that this bar?
Yeah. That's a great, that is a severely
like a sunset underrated bar or something. What do you call it?
It's all, originally it's a buffalo bar. So the original name is, I'm pretty sure it's from Westside, and the original name is a buffalo bar. Rogue named their version of that buffalo. Chris Duffin on the West Coast has his Duffalo bar, kind of mod off his own name. And then like Westside, I don't know where they're at for selling barbells now, but theirs was like, they just had Mega Bow was what they called it. And that is a fantastic bar to pull a deadlift. Yeah. So Justin brought that bar up when he came up last year, and we maxed it as a deadlift. And I mean, it's real spicy.
It doesn't want to stop like that, right? That's just, they somehow tricked it. It wants to always fold. Does it always want to fold?
It'll stay like that in a rack. It'll stay like that in a rack, but on the floor, you'll have someone who kind of like stands to the side and keeps it vertical until the athlete's got their hands on it if they're going to pull. So, with a bar like
spicy? It should be easier, right? Because you don't have to bend down as far. Okay.
Totally. That's exactly what people think. So like right. Shorter athletes will probably find it easier. But as a like average height or tall athlete, will find it very tricky. So one, that bar is 38 millimeter. So it's thick as fuck. And on top of that, it's incredibly stiff. So with a stiff bar, you essentially on a deadlift are going to have none of the weight and then all of the weight.
Okay.
So you don't have that like ease. So a good deadlifting bar.
You say that's a bad thing. Don't you want a stiffer bar because you get quicker transfer of power?
No, deadlift bar. No, look at like heavy deads, especially these days. So they've.
I feel bad for them when the bar bends. Like, oh my god, they're wasting all that effort to get it up.
They're sort of like wedging in and loading into it. So that whip on
I guess I don't understand that at all.
Same as an Olympic bar, right? So same as like clean and snatch, where you want
to
have
that
bar.
Kind of get because you get a bounce. You kind of
catch it on there. But on that deadlift bar, you get that nice bend into it. You wedge in tight. It kind of like takes the tension, then up it wants to come. Yeah.
So once you get it off, maybe inch 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 is actually helpful because you get a little bit of a.
Well, and you're not taking all of the weight from the lowest position, right? So then you are sort of like, you are getting that sort of like good wedge in and start position. So you get that good leg drive, you get that wedge in and you start to take the weight and you sort of can kind of like ease into the trigger pull, I guess. But with that bow, one, you're getting all the weight all at once. And that subtle change in height can actually make a deadlift harder for the first couple inches. So if you elevate a deadlift bar like a little bit off the floor, then you actually can take out a bit of that leg drive that starts the bar. And you end up with like this like min-max spot where it's actually the hardest spot because you're not getting that initial start leg drive and you're not quite where the hips are optimal to really do their job. And it can be, you can actually see a decrease in 1 rep max load as that bar is just like a couple of inches or 3/4 of an inch off the floor.
So I've experienced that, thinking I was going to make it easier by lifting it off the ground, and it didn't.
Yeah, totally.
So you're saying this idea that I'm getting is like, hey, be barefoot, do deadlift on concrete, get immediate transfer of power through your body to the bar, right? Up through your body, through your arms to the bar. You're saying you agree with that, right?
I would not go barefoot.
Theoretically.
But as thin a shoe as you can get. I like a tight shoe. I think a shoe actually, I find that
why not go barefoot? But theoretically, what I'm saying, you agree with, just not in practice, right?
Yeah, I like the rest of those pieces for sure. But barefoot, like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. The piece I would say is like, are you getting the most out of the lift? And I feel like the answer to that is no. Because I feel like there's just too much in the foot with all the small bones and the way the foot can move, that the shoe. So the nice thing about being barefoot is one of the things that actually makes it not as good for the deadlift. Is just like, if you get like a good, like, remember that, like, I mean, I think they're pretty impossible to find these days, but remember that, like, when Reebok was building those like high tops, and they had that like real stiff wall high top shoe that was like their powerlifting shoe. They did it for a little while.
Yeah. I'd only seen pictures of those. I never saw those in person.
That shoe is so good. So like that kind of shoe where it's like extremely tight, like sidewall to the shoe. It's like really thin, so you can tighten those laces and actually get a good tight foot. So if I like, especially if you're a wider stance, like any of that push out, you're getting no roll of the foot, and you're getting no like squish of the skin. Like all of that sort of stuff is removed. So it's just, I prefer a shoe and think it achieves a better result.
Yeah, and I feel you on that. So, but you're saying when you grab a bar and you're lifting it off the ground, that isn't, you have this concept of like wedging in, and then also what I'm picturing is when you finally get it off the ground, the outside's actually, if you keep moving, you can kind of utilize a few pounds to actually lift. Okay,
yeah, totally.
It's funny, I'd never thought of that.
Yeah,
but probably because I'm not lifting anything heavy enough.
It's pretty cool with like a deadlift bar. Like, and that's what makes them kind of special, right? Because a deadlift bar, you're going to have a 27 mil. So it's almost like a half step between like a women's bar at 25 mil and like a men's bar at like 28 and a half.
I didn't even know there was a deadlift bar.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But like, there's lots of them. People make them now. Yeah. Texas bars and Rogue.
Do they use those at the games?
I think they did actually. I think they used them. I don't know for sure, but I want to say they used them in that deadlift ladder at the ranch for the anniversary. I think, but I don't feel 100% confident in
that. Dick Butter, where is this guy located? Where is Squamish?
Right on the ocean, on the west coast of Canada. So we're about 45 minutes north of Vancouver, Canada.
Pull up of course I can't. I'm going to try to pull up a map here. Here we go. It's funny. I thought I knew where it was. I did not think of it as being on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's us right there. Beautiful British Columbia.
How come I don't see it? Did I zoom out too far?
Yeah, zoom in a little more.
Oh, there Whistler it is. Okay.
Yeah. So we're kind of halfway between. So Whistler was the 2010 Winter Olympics. We're kind of halfway between Vancouver, Whistler. Amazing drive along the ocean from Vancouver to Squamish.
Oh, and
incredible area.
CrossFit had its 10-year anniversary and we went.
That's right, actually.
Straight up through there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so you can see the chief in the photo there. So that's like the large block of granite. I mean, that granite is like old school Yosemite. Like it's just like very similar, just way less volume of traffic on it.
Hey, so you're kind of isolated. So to see you have to fly into Vancouver and then make that drive north.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's what a lot. I mean, Justin and those guys all just will drive up from Vancouver, Washington, because it's actually, I mean, from Portland, you're maybe like 5.5 hours or so, 6 hours maybe. Yeah.
So yeah, right, from Portland. Oh, so they just drive up.
Yeah, they just drive
5 hours. That's only 5 hour drive there?
Yeah, I mean, wow. It kind of depends on what happens in Seattle, but but if Seattle's reasonable, yeah, super easy drive.
You mean in terms of traffic?
Totally, yeah.
Totally off subject here. That that event at the games where they had the rucksack on the back and they were asking the athletes to do pistols. Do you have any opinions about that? I didn't hear anyone talk about that, but I remember thinking I didn't like that. And most of the athletes were on their toes when they were, well, I shouldn't say most. A lot of the athletes I saw, maybe it is most, were on their toes when they were doing those squats. I just didn't like putting the athletes in that situation. Do you have any thoughts on that? You don't have to have any thoughts on that, but
yeah,
I'm just curious.
Yeah, not really. I always say with programming for events, like, so we've hosted a ton of events here. We've had, CrossFit competitions. I worked for the games for 6 years or so, I guess.
You did, what years were those?
20. So we hosted sectionals. So before, if you remember, before the Open. So I think it was like maybe 1 year. So we hosted sectionals for British Columbia in 2010. And I worked through 2010 until my last year was 2015. So 2015.
Did you work with Curtis Bowler? Was that something you did too? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good friends with Curtis.
Awesome. Yeah. Good dude.
That guy is, oh man, the best. Curtis is the best. That guy is so awesome. So I worked with Curtis. Yeah. I actually knew Curtis from before that because he had his strongman event. So that's how we actually got into strongman stuff, was through Curtis's fundraiser for Fragile X in down at his gym. Yeah, and that's actually where I did my level 1. So I did my original level 1 at Curtis's gym with Dave Castro and Dr. Mike.
That's Lisa Ray's husband.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And Rob Wolf did the nutrition talk, and God,
that must have been a good one.
Yeah, I think it was like I want to say 07 or 08 maybe. Yeah. We actually met at my level 2.
You and I did.
Yeah.
Was it in San Diego?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Or no, sorry, San Francisco. So it was at Freddie's gym.
No shit. What year was that?
That was January of 09. So that was like, you'd just done the every second counts. Jason Kalipa just won the CrossFit Games. Cause that was like, so that was a crazy L2, because that was the old school one, right? And that was like, Kalipa was there, John Wellborn, Carl Paoli. Like, it was just a ton of studs in that seminar, and also me.
Yeah. How old are you? You look too young to be at a L2 in 2010.
I'm 42.
Wow, you look good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, I thought your skin would be all cracking and broken, and I thought just from being in the cold weather and
right. No, it's the cold that keeps you healthy and young. Look at those Icelanders.
Oh, good point. How did you meet Adam Knifer?
Well, actually, so it was at Curtis's event. So the first time I met him, we were both competing in his strongman event.
For those of you who don't know, Adam Knifer owns CrossFit Fort Vancouver. Been to the games probably 10 times.
Oh man, yeah.
Coaches Justin, Ellie,
best
he's got a couple other. He's got that young girl,
Trista.
Yeah, and I think maybe a couple others.
Yep, Mac as well. Ton of masters athletes.
Yeah, it kind of. I mean, you could argue he's one of the most knowledgeable, if not the most knowledgeable, CrossFitter on the planet. I mean, there's definitely an argument for him. You got to put him in some sort of.
It's insane.
Hall of Fame. Yeah, he's a and he's not what's funny, with all that being said, I don't think of him as a gamesista. I don't think of, even though he coaches all these world-class athletes, I think of him as methodologically one of the most sound CrossFit coaches in the world. Like he'll help you with your Parkinson's. I mean, shit.
Right? He's incredibly smart. Yeah, incredibly smart, brilliant strategist, extremely thoughtful. He's a great person. Inside of that CrossFit realm, I mean, Yeah, like
kind
having the
he's
opportunity
in a
to work with him
category
is
kind of all by himself, right? I mean, he's getting into this kind of really rare air.
I mean, he would probably.
He would hate us saying
yeah,
this, but
totally.
It's true,
Yes.
but it's true. But it's true. It's getting weird with the whole Justin thing he's doing with Justin now is just in Ellie. It's just weird. He's getting into this weird space.
He's awesome. He's an awesome guy to work with. So we met at Curtis's event and a couple times. And then it was actually at that Whistler 10-year. So we reconnected that Whistler 10-year, had some awesome conversations. And then it was so that would have been September in 2019, right?
Was he coaching Justin at that point yet?
I guess he would have just started maybe.
Okay.
I think because I can't remember what year he picked up Justin. So then he reached out to me in like 2 weeks after the 2020 games ended. And just gave me a phone call. And
2 weeks after 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He reached out and just said, "Hey, I've got an athlete that I feel like maybe you might be able to help with. We're trying to accomplish this with him in this next like couple months, and we're wondering if you'd be interested." And to be honest, in general, I would say no, only because I'm really tentative about anything that would be remote programming, is I just don't know that it's best practices.
And you showed that in that video in a video I watched, you talk about that. Like, hey, okay.
Yeah, I just don't think well, you're not coaching. You're just a programmer, which is not to say just a programmer. A programmer is a big deal for sure. But it's just, and especially the system that we use, it's really easy to not necessarily make mistakes, but just be suboptimal by not choosing the best weight selection or not understanding how to set things up correctly, et cetera, et cetera. But because of all the COVID stuff, the Zoom thing was kind of a piece then. And although I had kind of opted not to do anything with Zoom, that I was like, well, let's give a session a try. And we'll do an upper body session. We'll give it a try on Zoom and see if it's like possible. And gave it a try, and thank fuck, because it was awesome. I was really tentative to say yes, but we hit it off like pretty straight away, and he was just so coachable. Like it was amazing how easy it was with just a phone on a tripod to just be like, hey, like this, you need to set your shoulders a little more like this, like try this. And he's like, how's that? You're like, yeah, that looks great. And we were just able to move from one piece to the next, and he would just move the tripod around the gym as he was doing these different things. And the session went well. And then it also always has to work for like both the coach and the athlete, right? So there's some times where, I mean, no harm, no foul, but sometimes it's just not a good connection or a good combo. And in this case, it was. Everyone seemed pretty happy, and they asked me to stay working with them a couple times a week through November to New Year's. And I said I would, as long as every session was always on FaceTime or Zoom. And that was my
as opposed to
just sending programming.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not interested in just sending programming, because I've just seen it come up short too many times. And so we started doing that. And then New Year's, they reevaluated and asked if I would stay until the 2021 games. And we started at 2 sessions a week. And then we went to we do we're always 3 sessions a week, unless it's like a recovery cycle or something like that.
And you still do, if he's not up there, you still do it by phone?
100%. Yeah. I don't miss a session unless I absolutely have to, but I hate it. I hate missing a session.
Why do you think Adam? I'm guessing. I'm guessing Adam told Justin, "Hey, I know this guy up in Squamish. And I'm assuming then Justin said, "Yeah, Adam, whatever you think, I trust you."
Absolutely.
I'm just making that up. For anyone who's listening, don't take that as the gospel. Let's assume that that's true. Why do you think Adam chose you? Why can't Adam do it? I mean, he's so good at everything. Why didn't he go to why cross up the border? You know, that's just a fucking hassle. Why do you think he chose you? What do you think he saw in you?
I mean, that's probably the best question asked for Adam. But
you think he just liked how clean you kept your gym?
Well, I was gonna say,
by the way, the best part about that video is the log area where people log their information. That I wanted to go up there and drink a cup of coffee and just dig through people's logs. God,
you know what?
It looks so beautiful.
It's super interesting. Sometimes it's very disappointing.
Is it? Oh, it's just
sometimes you open some of those books and you're like, okay, there's actually nothing in here. They just wrote their name in the front. That's all that's in here.
I just like that whole area of your gym. Anyway, why do you think Adam chose you? What did he see?
I think he sort of felt that, like, you know, based off the conversations we'd had, that I might be a good fit for adding something as a specialty skill. I think Adam does a really fantastic job, and I've thought a lot about it just because I think it's actually a really valuable piece. Is like know where, you know, same as like if you were competing in a team event, is you need to know when you're like, hey, I could keep going, but if I step back and let this other person step in, the result for the team is higher. Because although I could continue to produce reps, I can't produce them as fast as letting someone else take the lead now. Right. You know? So if you're working as a team, it's like knowing when to be like, I got this, but also knowing when to be like, I'm going to step back and like let someone else run the ball.
Had he ever coached it? Had he ever come up and trained with you?
No.
Did he know? Did you have any famous athletes come out of your gym? Like, do you think he was watching like your work you did with this 17-year-old?
Yeah, we also had Kaylin at the time, who was also. I mean, we've had some solid success with teens. Okay. So we had Kaylin at the time, who was, you know, like 198 body weight, 620 deadlift, and he was like, I think he broke 600 at 17 as well.
Wow.
And had a bunch of national and world records for powerlifting, and like, but was still like such a stud athlete. Like, you know, we've got video of him pulling 500, stepping back, and just doing a big backflip on the platform. You know.
Wow.
So we'd been successful at building teens. I mean, we're a town of 17,000, but Squamish actually produces quite a lot for athletes in quite a broad spectrum of sports. But yeah, we talked a lot about youth, and then like that young, and then how we were doing what we were doing. And I think he just found it interesting and thought that it might be a good fit. And I guess initially the idea was that commitment was low, right? Like if we did that first session, like this guy is a nut. No, thank you. No harm, no foul. And same thing if we got to Christmas and hadn't produced any results, or they didn't feel like it was valuable. Like my piece always was, I don't want to, I want to help as long as I'm helpful. You know, like we don't have any, there's no commitments, no ties and contracts. Like, I'm around to be as helpful as long as everyone finds me helpful.
It's kind of like, tinkering with, I'll give you a real world example. I was at the Arnold one year in the late 1800s, and I was filming an arm wrestling event, and there was a masseuse there, and the masseuse worked on one of the best arm wrestlers who ever lived, named Ron Bath, from the East Coast of the United States, an amazing arm wrestler. And Ron then went up there and arm wrestled, and he lost a match he shouldn't have lost. And later we found out that the person who had worked on him, he suspected had done something to, like, it wasn't the right kind of massage to get before doing a maximum.
Yeah. That seems like a terrible choice.
And so how do you handle someone bringing in, it's kind of like, someone like basically Adam rolled his Lamborghini into your shop.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, there had to be some trust. He had to have known that, like, Jesse BiFano works on Lamborghinis. He's not going to like fuck it up. He's not going to be like, hey, let me try some new fuel in it and see how it performs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so he would sit in on the sessions for the first while, right?
Like Adam would.
Yeah, totally. And there's always that opportunity. Like for me, I mean, his gym thing is like, his gym motto, I guess, is like hungry, humble, awesome. Right. And I think that that's just those, those pieces are what sort of carrying him forward for being able to like, best assess. I mean, I think as a coach, you also get if you can't pick up things quickly from like who people are, you're going to be less effective at like coaching them. Right. So one of the things,
were you insecure at all dealing with him? Like, let me give another example. Someone brings in, you're a carpet cleaner. You've been cleaning carpets for 15 years. You're a master at your craft. You fucking make $300,000 a year cleaning little Oriental rugs, right? Yeah. I don't know if you can say that word anymore.
I can picture what you're saying. Yeah.
And then someone fucking brings in a rug you never seen before that's fucking from that they said Christ sat on. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh shit. Yeah. Yeah. Like, what if I start to rub this rug and it falls apart?
Yeah, totally. 100%. Of course.
So when I'm just imagining like Justin shows up there and you're like, fuck, like, I mean, even if you have a perfect track record, you're like, what if I fucking make him do the frog deadlift and he blows out his knee?
Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, but as a strength coach, like, aren't you always kind of under that gun with good athletes?
I guess. I mean, you sound so confident in just even in fact with the 1 rep maxes, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, you could go on Instagram right now and find 1,000 people who like never do 1 rep max. I mean, you can find athletes, very cool, probably athletes. Do you work with athletes who are like, no, Jesse, I don't want to do 1 rep maxes?
No.
Okay.
No, because it's just not our style.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that there's not other. I mean, there's many ways to be successful, and this is just the way that we do it. Right. So it's not that there's not other ways that are like, well, I did this and it's working great for me. You're like, that's awesome. I mean, if it's working great for you, then great. That's just how we do it. And I don't want to be, we have to like, we've been successful by doing it the way that we do it and who we are. But, also like, it's a constant learning. Like, I mean, there's always learning and always pieces that are like, you're trying to improve at or be better at. I mean, I feel like I've got, a long road of learning ahead still. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, when Adam's like, I've got an athlete, you're like, okay, like, tell me about them. And they're like, it's Justin Medeiros. He just plays, at the CrossFit game. He just podiumed at the CrossFit Games. You're like,
next to the greatest of all time.
Still next to the greatest of all time. You're like,
right.
Yes, no, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, crazy. And he's so young.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
So you must see potential too. A part of you, and I guess on the other hand, I'm asking if you're afraid. Another part of you must be like, wait till you see what I can do with this young whippersnapper.
Yeah, also true. Yeah.
Like
totally.
You're inspired by it.
100%. Yeah. I mean, his work ethic and his like attitude is like, people are like, how you get asked like, what is he like? Because we'll probably spend, 6 hours plus on FaceTime every week together.
Wow.
And people are like, what is that? He's like, dude, what you see is what you get. Like how he comes off in his YouTube videos is like, that's Justin. Like he is genuine, super high quality guy. And just he is a pleasure to work with. And I mean, that's the thing too.
He's got a little bit of Santa Claus in him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's just like, he's big.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a big personality. Yeah. But he brings like,
not obnoxious, just big. I'm here.
Yeah. Like, I think it's cool to see like the things, like I've been very lucky to have the opportunity to work with some great athletes. And it's always funny because you feel like the things that people are like, oh, must be nice to have the genetic potential or the gift of this or this geometry and like, honestly, the thing that I see that's the most common thread across all of those groups is attitude. Is the difference is the attitude is always like, those like, Justin, Jamie, one of our girls is just signed with the UFC this spring.
Oh
Had her first UFC fight like April. And the thing you see, like, you know, those athletes come in the gym. Tegan, same thing. Is like,
how did she do? How did she do in that fight?
Yeah, good. She won. Yeah.
Oh, she did.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. It was so cool. I was so lucky to have the chance to go. Yeah.
This chick.
Yeah, Squamish. Yeah, right out of Squamish. Yeah, that girl's got depth. I mean, she's a killer. Loves to fight.
And did her coach contact you the same way Adam Knifer contacted you? Like, yo, I got this girl.
Yeah, actually, she reached out to me directly. So she reached out as the athlete, and I
wonder how she knew power. I wonder how she knew strength training was for her.
Well, actually, we both competed in logger sports together.
Oh, no shit. And so she's just a tough human, period.
She's tough, 100%. Yeah, super tough. Yeah.
Her face looks tough, doesn't it?
She's that might be hurtful to say.
No, I don't mean it. I don't mean it in a mean way. I just mean like she could be a bouncer. Like you just look at her face.
Yeah,
like,
she's
look
not.
How serious. She's serious.
She's serious. Right she's there. Not.
Yeah.
She's there to fight for sure. Like, you know, I was super lucky to have the opportunity. She asked if I would go and corner as her third for the UFC fight, and
wow,
it was really super special to get to go. Yeah, I was really lucky. I mean, I have no business being there. So it was
dude, that's
very
awesome,
cool.
Jesse.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was so, but just that
was that at the Apex? Now we're way off subject.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love the UFC and I love fighting. So I can't believe.
Yeah, it was at the Oh, dude, getting to see the Apex like behind the scenes and getting to see like how the whole machine like works, and especially having worked for the CrossFit Games, and seeing like how it works and like what things are the same, what things are different, how they do this and how they do that. Like, oh man. Like so,
and Dana's like somewhere behind you, right? You're like up on the fence, and like you could like reach and pat him on the bald head.
No, you know what? I don't know if he's there. Honestly, I was too stressed about freaking taking a bad step and stepping off the edge of the stage, and
right?
Being the dummy, or hurts their back walking down the stairs,
stealing the show.
Yeah, so I don't know who was in the room.
Okay, before we get back, I want to go back to Justin in a second, but I want to ask you this question too before I forget. What is? Oh, by the way, her back is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, right. Back is a dream.
Two questions. Looking at her back, what about working with really lean athletes like this?
Mm-hmm.
Is this? Do you prefer not to work with them this lean? And then what the fuck is this thing? Why do I want to try that thing?
That only exists here.
Yeah, what is that? That rubber banding weights to you, and does that require help, like someone doing that to you?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you throw the band on. Yeah, once you're in, you're kind of in. So we call that a rhino harness. Westside actually they have one too that goes even lower and has a pin off the hips, but we put the pin off the chest. So we built that ourselves.
That's 135 pounds she's walking with.
Yeah, I know.
Fast.
Yeah, which to be really honest is very few people, man or woman, can actually do that.
What's she doing right there?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's brutal. It's so terrible.
Your midline, like you think it's good, and then all of a sudden your midline's done.
Whatever your weakest link is, like upper back, mid, lower back, hip, like it's whatever's the weakest in your posterior chain, it's going to exploit that. And you're going to hate life, and you're going to get within 50 meters of the end and still think about taking a knee or putting it down.
Mm-hmm. All right. So are you going to patent that and have Bill sell it over at Mr.
No, they're
Bill
tired of me.
Bill and Katie. They are tired of you.
Yeah, totally.
Many ideas for Bill.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, isn't Bill great? Isn't Bill great?
I've never met him or spoken to him or Katie either, but I have been to Rogue. When I went down the Arnold maybe in 2016 or 2017, I'd sent a bunch of stuff, and I had met Amik through the CrossFit Games.
Yep.
So I met Amik and then met with him at Rogue and signed an NDA with those guys. And because I have a bunch of, like, we do all kinds of stuff that we've built in the gym, and definitely, I mean, to be fair, I feel like I should be an equipment tester for Rogue.
Yeah, I agree.
Some stuff, like, I don't know that there's anywhere in the world that is cycling through the specialty bars and that sort of stuff as often as we are. So like there's stronger gyms.
Meaning you're breaking bars?
Well, just how often we use them. So all of our CrossFitters use all the specialty bars. All of our lifters and sport athletes use all the specialty bars. We use specialty bars, I mean, most days of the week. So like that kind of equipment gets used all of the time. So there's things that, I mean, over more than a decade, you learn where you're like, hey, this is what sucks about this bar. This is what could be better about this bar, like so on and so forth. Like, so you look through those bars and you're like, I would do this. I wouldn't do that. This would be better for, like, this is how this should be. Yeah, I met with Amit, real good conversation. Awesome. We looked at a whole bunch of stuff. Followed up a couple times, had some other pieces, but eventually they're like, I mean, he just stopped responding to my text.
I've had a bunch of, I don't know, a bunch, but I've had some ideas for Bill. And one time I wanted to build I had this idea for a ladder, but you mount it on the ceiling anywhere in your house and it turns into monkey bars.
Okay.
So you could buy 3 of them or 5 of them, and you could build like monkey bars in your kid's room, right? Ladder goes up the wall and then mount them. And he responded to me. Bill actually drew it out, hand drew out my idea for me.
Yeah.
And then said, go shop it somewhere else. I don't want nothing to do with this shit. And basically for reasons, he's like, hey, I don't fuck with kid shit or something. And I'm like, I'm not mounting shit on the ceiling so fucking some kid can fall off and sue the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
But I just loved him, the fact that he was kind enough to draw it. He drew it out for me. And then he's like, get the fuck out of here. Don't bother me with this fucking crazy shit.
Yeah. I was sending videos of like, because we'll cut some stuff apart. So we'll cut Rogue things apart and be like, hey, we cut this apart and like rebuilt it like this, or hey, we did this or mounted this on the GHD, and like I just got like the don't do that.
Right.
All right, good talk.
Right.
I'll text you next good idea. But there's some stuff. I mean, like it's every little. I mean, there's just a bunch of little, like the Velcro on the rings always has made me crazy. You know, like it's like it always fails.
When you say Velcro on the rings, you mean like
that just holds the loose, like holds
yes,
right?
Yeah,
like who doesn't have like when does that Velcro last? Like every gym has like missing Velcro. But if you take a thin single strip that's like double-sided, like what you use to hold like your cables for your computer all together, and do it on the back, you're like, 1, it's less material. 2, it's less stitching. 3, we did that like more than a decade ago on all of our rings, and it still works.
Why does the thin work better than the one that they have on there?
Well, because the one they have on there, it's not this, it's thin. It's that it's the one they have on there is 2 parts and it just rips.
Oh, okay.
Versus this goes around as a constant loop.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that among other things, we're just like, no, thank you. But yeah, I mean, lots of stuff. I mean, there's lots of
I don't think they take it. To be honest with you, I think they're just they're cursed with success.
Oh man, Rogue is, and yeah, don't get me wrong in the sense of like Rogue is the coolest. Yeah, like there's like Rogue is so like when you get like the first reverse hyper I ever got was from Rogue, and the fact that they cut a separate plate that says Rogue and then it's 4 bolts that mounts on the side of that machine. You're like, that's just that costs them money. It doesn't need to be there, but it's fucking awesome, and that's why it's there.
I mean, it costs you. That, you mean that wait, let me awesome. You mean it costs you money?
But you're like, I just love it. I just love that they're like, that they're like the attention to detail, their innovation. Like, I mean, like Rogue's changed the game. Before Rogue, you were gonna pay like $2,500 for like a 2x2 rack. Now you pay a fraction of that price for 3x3 or 2x3 steel with west side hole spacing and J cups have like that UHMW laminated into the J cup. Like it's awesome. It's so awesome. Like they do so many things. So awesome.
Look at this Scout hyper.
Mm-hmm.
That looks scary. That like it could fall over.
Just a little fold. Just a little fold up. Yeah, they've had that for a bunch of years.
Look at it's got 275 reviews, 5-star.
Oh, I don't doubt that it's awesome. Like if it's up on their website, I mean, it's really good. The things
that's just cheap for a reverse hyper.
Oh
right?
yeah, 100%, totally attainable. Like that is a fair and reasonable price to pay for. I mean, anything. I mean, just that much steel. Like there's times where, especially the price of steel now, where like because we've got welders and I'll draw everything up on 3D in the computer before we build it. There's times where we price stuff out and we can't buy the steel for the price that Rogue is selling it for.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Stuff like dumbbell racks, people underestimate like just how much materials go in there. And then by the time you get good casters and all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
Louis Simmons. This thing weighs 100 pounds. It looks like it. Next to Louis, it looks like it weighs 300 pounds.
Yeah, that guy is just a legend.
Look at that. Hey, what happened to him? How did he die? Did he have a heart attack or a stroke, or does anyone know? What was the deal with that?
Yeah, the West Siders would know. I mean, I don't think it's for me to say, but okay. I mean, he was in the gym training that morning, as far as from what I was told, that he was in training that morning. I think checked himself into the hospital later that day, had some discrepancies with those guys. And it was just I think told them to go fuck themselves, went home and then passed at home that afternoon.
Damn.
From my understanding, that's what he was hoping would be the end. He's training right to his very last day.
How old was he? He wasn't that old,
coaching. Right? I think 74 or 76, I want to say. Okay. Yeah, I think.
So not old, but not young.
Yeah, I mean, he's been through the paces. Like that guy, man, his strength and capacity is insane. Like when you read book of methods and stuff like that, like when you got to stop and think about some of the details in that book with what you're reading and what you're seeing. Where you're like, as a finisher, you just grab a set of 50-pound dumbbells and you just do 5 minutes of reps, and you're like, huh. You're like, okay, nobody can do that.
Right.
Just do 5 minutes of unbroken reps. And Louis, do you know Jesse Ward?
Yeah. Great guy. That's up in Washington too, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Does he still have a gym?
100%. Yeah.
He turned into a lion. He grew out his hair and turned into a lion.
Yeah, he's got a big mane. Yeah, he's as handsome as ever.
Yeah, awesome.
So him and I actually headed out to Westside for a week years ago now. But we were there and we did sort of they were set up battling chains. So they had 1/2-inch chain, 2 20-foot lengths of it that they had out in the yard.
Like battle ropes, but battle chains?
But with 1/2-inch chain. Yeah. So we were out in the yard doing that.
This sounds dangerous.
Oh man. We both did 5 minutes of it. And it was crushing to keep going without breaking up for 5 minutes. And we came in and they're like, bro, Louis will go out there. He'll go 45 minutes or an hour by himself, just out there, and this is in his late 60s, And so he had just tremendous strength. He was still putting in so much effort and, just tip of the spear on so many levels.
I want to find, I've never seen someone do battle chains. It's the same thing as battle ropes, right?
Yeah. Just 1/2-inch chain. You're probably not going to find it out there. It's probably just Westside.
Oh, here we go.
Got it?
Yeah. And it probably is. It probably is Westside. Let me see. Oh shit, this is crazy. Yeah, this is nuts. That's funny. I've never seen this. Look, that's the second. I've never seen a frog deadlift. These ones are hooked up to a bag. Can you see that?
Yeah, totally. So we just had one end in each hand. Yeah. Yeah, it was spicy for sure. I mean, not common. Haven't done it since, but it just was the idea that, I mean, his strength, endurance, and capacity was huge.
Dude, look at those bikes right there. Those are those bikes where you turn a stopper down onto the wheel to slow the wheel to make you see that? Those things, those two on the end are crazy, dude.
Do you remember before assault bike where they're just everyone was spending people were spending $300-400 buying a 1980s freaking Aerodyne that they kind of half re-welded back together. You're yeah.
At least those were bikes. Those things in the corner are things you'd see in people's houses in the late 70s.
Yeah.
No one those were unrideable. You know what I mean? It's just something pushed against the wheel. Yeah, those were nasty. I want to go back to Justin. So you work with Justin and you from day one, has it been smooth sailing? It sounds like you went in with cold feet or very hesitant, might not be the word, but hesitant, and then it was oh, this is gonna work, and it's been it's been a pleasure ever since.
Yeah, really. I mean, honestly, it has. Yeah, it right from that.
You weren't hey, this is taking too much of my time.
No.
Okay.
That's the pro athletes are like, I mean, one of the reasons that I stopped working for CrossFit was, I really care about like our community and our gym. And it started to get to the point where working for the CrossFit Games was just pulling me away for too long, too often. And it stopped having a positive effect. Like it has to have a positive effect on our community and our people. Um, and that sort of became no longer the case. Kind of after that 2015, where I was just like, I'm just away a lot. And then I'm unreachable because like once you switch gears to work, regionals at the time or the games, like I would just have my phone like off, like it just wasn't available for anything but the games. And then that piece with Justin and having that opportunity to work with some professional athletes, I feel like for me has been really high value because you still want those data points, even though they're outliers, they're still valuable because it's like, it puts the coach in a spot where you have to be paying attention. Like it's easy to have someone come in who's like, I've never lifted weights before. Like, what's your bench press? 45 pounds. And, a year later they're, 180 pounds. Like, yeah, I mean, sure. Like there's some thought along the process, but it's pretty straightforward. But you have someone come in, especially CrossFitters have that like male athletes tend to have a spot between 275 and 300 that is unpassable for many. Some American athletes are different with like having grown up with a football background. So some of them are like, I used to bench 405 and now I bench 315 or 325 still. And they can ride off like previous performance. But a lot of people, if CrossFit was your first exposure to barbell, that 275 to 300 can be a real sticking spot for athletes. And, being able to start working with Justin is kind of being put on the spot for being like, does your programming work?
Yeah.
Because you do want that opportunity to prove your system's validity. And then also to continue to adapt. I mean, I have learned a huge amount from working with like, Justin and Ellie and Adam and that whole team. I mean, the whole team. I mean, Daniel and Dallas, like the whole crew. It's just such a, special group of people and such a high quality group of people that it's like, I've learned a huge amount in the past couple of years. And we've worked through all kinds of stuff. And sometimes we do stuff and you're like, yeah, it didn't work that good. And you're just like that here's what we're going to do next, or based off what we're seeing now, this is how we adapt. So we kind of train like event to event. So what we do between quarters and semis is different from what we do between semis and the games. And then we take time off in August. And as we come back from the games, what we do from September, October to Rogue is different than we do the rest of the year. And some of it is largely based off of what we saw at the last event. And then what we sort of are like, okay, based off what we saw, based off how it went, then here's the next layer of things. And sort of, in this system, it's not something where you say, okay, here's my number, times it by this, divide it by that, and then add this, and then go up 5 pounds every week. It's much more sort of, you have to be paying attention, and you have to be talking with the athlete, talking with other coaches, watching to see what the effect that what you're doing is having on the athlete. Is it the desired effect? What's changing? How are they speaking about things differently? It's a lot more time consuming, but at the same time, it feels like the end result is something that's like also very special and has a, just has an effect where like, well, this system will continue to work. I mean, we'll keep moving the pieces and we'll keep making changes and adaptions, and there'll be new things and new equipment. And, but how we do what we do, so far, so good,
Your fellow Canadian says hi, Peter Shaw.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, awesome. Hello, Peter.
I like the way I like the way you said that, because maybe in the future I'll ask the question like that. I think it's better. The question I was asking you earlier was, are you nervous like tinkering with Michael Jordan's dunk?
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But maybe the question better should be, are you excited? And I kind of don't like asking that question, but I prefer maybe that. I like the way you said it. You are excited to put your coaching to the test, and you take it seriously, but you are excited and stimulated and up for the challenge to put your coaching to the test.
Yeah, there's pieces where, I mean, there's like ups and downs in there for sure, right? Because there's times when you're just like, you watch stuff, you're like, fuck yeah, and you've had amazing gains. I mean, the first 16 weeks we put 25 pounds on his bench. Which, wow. Like, oh, like, you know, some people would be like, oh, like, no big deal, like beginner gains. You're like, well, it's not beginner gains.
No, it's not beginner gains. Yeah.
And it was right through a sticking spot that most people don't get through. And now the work we have to do to maintain that bench is actually pretty low. So it allows us to work on other things. And, you know, you might argue like, well, the bench press doesn't come up very often. And what's the value in that? You're like, well, I mean, horizontal pressing doesn't come up in competition very often. But the value of horizontal pressing and time spent building upper body strength and capacity, I mean, is high value for making positive changes to other movement patterns. I mean, when CrossFit says, you know, what are the 10 components of fitness? And if you say my, stamina and cardiovascular endurance are like 9 out of 10s, and my strength, power, speed are like 5 out of 10s, I mean, which one are you going to focus on? And then what effect did those things that you're weak at have on the other components? I mean, the idea that we've always spoken about has been like, you bring up those low end, those weaknesses of those 10 components of fitness, and they have a positive effect on those ones that are already strengths, because you can't expect to continue to make positive changes to those pieces that are already strengths by continuing to do them. You know, the marathon runner who continues to get a better time and continues to increase training volume until they can't. You know, now you're it's a 2:59 marathon runner. You're training 20 plus hours a week. You still have a 40-hour a week regular job. You have 2 kids at home. I mean, what's your next move? 22 hours a week, 23 hours a week. And then what's your exposure to injury? You know, if you keep doing the same thing, you know, if you've got a clean or a snatch and you're like, oh, it's weak, so I'm training it all the time. I mean, what's the next thing that happens?
There's also a couple different things going on, right? There's people coming in there who want to lift heavy objects for the sake of lifting heavy objects.
Yeah.
And then there's people who like the fighter, who it's all, I guess, accessory work or complementary work. And
still
then there's
maxes though.
Okay, still maxes. And then there's people like Justin, who it's kind of like a hybrid. Like everything has to be accessory work and complementing other movements, while also still he may have to perform maxes. No, not will have to, may have to, will have to perform maxes.
Yeah, and then you've got stuff like Jamie, who also has a weight class component, right?
Right.
We can't stack weight on, because she walks around at like 152 these days, but we'll fight at 125.
She's wow, man, she is wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're seeing in that video.
So muscle really is heavy.
Her nearing the end of her training cycle.
Her weight cut. Okay.
Yeah, so she's getting close to fight weight in that video. Like that fight was actually 135. So she's not quite as she isn't cutting all the way down. But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, some of the pieces with some of the pieces with like that weight cut and the cut near the end is, I mean, it's something to see. I don't have any part of that. So like, I was just so stoked to be along for the ride. Like, her striking coach, Jay, was down there from Canada as well. And he is crazy volume of experience, like super confident. Just being able to watch him do his work and get her weight cut, I mean, it's crazy. Like, she was losing 2 pounds an hour in one of those, like, have you seen those bags?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I've only seen them on embedded on the show, on the UFC shows. Like each hotel room in Dubai has one, and they climb in there.
I know.
And then it shows the athletes go in the bathtub and getting hot water. And I'm just like, fuck.
Oh yeah. And Jamie takes it like a champ. Like, she goes through that. I mean, I skip a meal, I get real miserable and sad. I mean, she's cutting tremendous amount of weight, and then that cut, and she's still like friendly, approachable, good person. like, you cut that weight on a lot of people, they're monsters.
Justin Medeiros, Jesse, you are crushing it. I'm so proud of you. Much love. Nice words.
That's nice.
Nice words from the champ. How about incorporating a second athlete? If it wouldn't have been someone who was working with Justin, would you have taken on another athlete, you think? Because you also now train Ellie Turner, correct?
Yeah. We were down in Australia 2 weeks ago for the Torian Pro.
And you went down there for that?
Yeah. Because we had to kind of split the team, right? So we had
so you're on the team. This isn't just you're more than just the weightlifting coach.
I feel like that's true.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it's not, but I feel
fuck. If you went to Australia, you get an automatic. You're in, and maybe everyone is. I'm just feeling around trying to understand the familial nature of it, or what it means to be on the team.
Yeah,
but you went down there.
It's a pretty tight group. So for semifinals, Justin's semi was the same as Ellie's. So Adam, Dallas, and Daniel went to the West region or West semi with Justin, Trista, the teen, and then Mac as well from Adam's gym. So he had the 3 athletes there, and then Ellie had to go back. I mean, she tried to get sort of the opportunity to not have to travel back because it's a big time away from the team and coaches and her gym and everything else. But she did end up having to travel back. So she was in Australia for the month of May, and then competed at Torian at the end of that month. So I flew down the week up for the event. So I got there like Tuesday before the event, and we both flew out the following Tuesday. Yeah. So I got to go.
And you got to work closely with her because there was a time, right? Wasn't she was kind of like stuck in like purgatory, and so Canada?
Yeah, she was stuck here with us. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Canada, the prison.
And so Squamish at that point, that was kind of her home gym, right? That's where she.
Yeah, she was here for. She arrived at the end of August in Canada, and then I think she got sort of like the thumbs up from America in like middle of October. And then she was able to get her visa and then head to the States. Yeah. So she was with us for that like 6 weeks period. Oh yeah.
Shannon Medeiros giving you thumbs up. So what about that? Was that a no-brainer to take on someone else who was also part of Adam's team?
Yeah, I'll work with Adam on anything, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that relationship's grown tremendously in the last couple of years.
Yeah. So yeah, to be fair, so like the 2 of us are working with Justin, Ellie, and Trista for CrossFit, and then Adam and I are working together also on Jamie, the UFC fighters stuff as well. Because for the exact same reason he asked me, is that a couple of fight camps ago, I was just like, why the fuck am I doing her conditioning? Like, Adam is better at this than I am. Like, hand it off. Like, just let me do what I'm best at, and then hand off what I'm not. And so he took over doing her conditioning work. I think we've done it like 3 camps now, and then we've carried on. Now this is the first time we've carried on with it between camps. So she had her fight in April, and we've carried it through now, and she's looking towards a fight sometime, hopefully September, October, but there's nothing official yet. She's got a 4-fight contract with the UFC. So we've started working with her as well. But I mean, yeah, it's hard. Like it's really humbling to have athletes reach out and be like, can you help me? And so on and so forth. And it's just, it's such a, like, one, it's a big commitment. 2,
on your part or on their part?
Both. And 2, it's also one where, like, I mean, in the CrossFit realm, like, I'm on the team that I'm on, like I've got full effort and everything poured into this team right now. And mostly I'll do, like, I mean, I've done some console stuff, which has actually been pretty fun. So I'll do, like, hey, if you want like some direction or advice on like where you're at, or like what's going, what might be good options. And like, for sure, that's a easy one. Like it's a low commitment. I can spend an hour if I just schedule it in, but to take on like full programming, everything else. Cause you're like, I remember Shane Sweat, who, he's been a huge mentor for me for years and years.
Is that the guy whose gym we looked at with the girl deadlifting?
Yeah.
The volleyball
Yeah.
player?
Okay. Yeah. Shane has built champion after champion. Like he works with incredible athletes and has helped me for, more than a decade. I remember getting advice from him years ago where he's like, you have to be very thoughtful about who you choose to work with, and you have to be successful. Because otherwise it's your fault and you're gone. And, whether that's true or not, that's always kind of been like one of those pieces where I've kind of reshaped that to, I can only take on what I can fully apply myself to and give everything I have. Right. So pieces where like, I don't have any hobbies. I don't have other things I do outside of this. I don't.
Do you have kids?
No, this is it. Like, this is everything I do. And it's been like that for like, going almost 14 years now. So like, that's what I think about at the end of the day. It's what I'm talking, 10 PM, 11 PM at night, you're, texting with or messaging with practitioners or athletes, or, it's like, it's full application. So when people reach out, I think sometimes they're like, it'd be great. You could show me some things and give me a program and good to go. But the reality is you're like, it's just not how I work. And it's not, I think, how I would be like successful with an athlete, which is like, that's the most important. Like, I don't want to like sell someone. I'm like, oh, I could do anything. And you're like, that's not always true. I mean, there's also athletes who you're like, it's just not a good fit. So I'm super thankful and very fortunate for all the people that I do get to work with, and feel guilty about not being able to help more, but that's just kind of where things are at these days.
There is a consistent theme with you since the beginning of the interview, where also you're not interested in you don't sell IKEA furniture. You're not like, hey, here's the box, here's the instructions, go put that shit together. Like, you're going to have the people come in, you're going to cut the wood with them, you're going to saw it, you're going to sand it, you're going to screw it together. I mean, you want to be there. You're not for some reason you want to be extremely hands-on with your with your craft.
Coaching.
But like programming, coaching, you have a really holistic view of it. You haven't parsoned it out. Maybe in your own mind, but you're not for what you want to do with athletes. It's pretty holistic.
Yeah, I think for sure. Like, so before this, I was part of like a definitely.
Let me ask you one question before you say it. But for another dad point, did when you asked Justin to do a PR, does he do them all in house, or does he do some on his own?
Oh, I don't want to miss a PR.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. See, it's consistent. It's like that. Yeah. You're not fucking around. Okay. Go on.
No, because you're looking, because inside of that max, you're also looking for a breakdown.
Yeah.
Right. You want to see the lift because you want to see you're like, okay, great. Like, even if he makes it, you're like, what can you learn? Because there's the physical adaptations, but also there's the pieces of like he made that, but you can sort of see just a little bit, like there's this little like hitch midway, or, he flares a like elbow out, elbow in. This happens, he rounds up her back, whatever. Like, whatever the thing is, like, that's what you're looking for to be like, okay, like better than last time. So we're doing the right things, but to move forward and, get him to, the next weight or the next piece, because there's also a spot where it's heavy enough for his sport, right? Like there's a spot where you get to where like, that's enough now and we don't need more. And so then we're like, what else can we do? Because I mean, some of the things that I get up to with those guys, like, like it extends past just like how physically strong they are and able to display on a single rep, right? Because strength is also that capacity. I mean, think of like why CrossFit adds strength in, right? It's that well-rounded capacity to not be injured, right? And as an athlete in any sport, I mean, there's also a spot of just like staying alive. Like not ending up with an injury that's the end of your career, not ending up with stuff that's like big setbacks that cost you huge training time, like those sort of things that have a negative effect can sometimes just be unable to maintain good health, and not just like as a like not health, but like even like, joint integrity, range of motion, everything else, like, working with specialty bars and a ton of variance, imagine you're in a squat, either volume or a max, and you end up out of a good position. What's your answer for that then? Is it like optimally that athlete has trained a bunch of specialty bars? So if you end up, you come out of the hole on your back squat, your upper back rounds and you get pushed forward a bit. And optimally what goes on in the athlete's mind is, ugh, this sucks and it's not great, but I'm strong here too, because I've spent all that time on that that safety squat bar. I know what this feels like to have that like upper back. Like it's not just it's perfect or it's not, because the more you spend with it just a straight bar, I mean, it opens a door for being a specialist, right, where you're great as long as it's this. And then eventually you're too tired, the reps are too many, the weight's too high, and it ends up not being that. Optimally, you've got that capacity then to still manage yourself.
Going back, the fact that you want to watch him do his PRs, watch your athletes do their PRs is just more another data point of just how you operate. I don't know how to describe it, but it's incredibly it's consistent. You're consistent with your dedication is not the right word, but it's obviously dedication. But yeah. Kudos to you for being you're a master chef. I don't know how to explain it, but
my cooking is medium to poor.
You're the guy who makes the stuffed animal, but even though no one sees the stuffing inside, you're concerned with how that's placed in and the pressure, and there's this attention absolutely to the whole thing that you're invested in.
It doesn't always need to be the front facing pieces. That was a big motivator for me when I left Wildland Fire. Was I knew my time there was kind of like at a wrap, because I mean it's a super cool
time where time with fire. What's fire?
Wildland Fire. So I worked
okay.
as like a wildland firefighter for 12 years, and I knew my time there was at a wrap, as it just was like I didn't feel like I was having a large enough effect on the greater good. And so that became like, I started doing CrossFit. Yeah. So that was my last live rappel that I ever did. It's pretty cool. Actually, that's at the Winter Olympics. So that was at the Winter Olympics in February. It's crazy that even happened. But was,
why? Because of the weather?
Oh, the weather, because we can only rappel in like certain, in like environment conditions, et cetera. This is like February in Canada. And it actually came together, and my last live rappel from the helicopter was onto a barge floating Cole Harbor in Vancouver. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. Yeah.
And so your career as a wildland firefighter ended when what happened? You were going to say?
Yeah, I realized that I just wasn't having an effect on like the greater good. Like I wanted to.
You weren't putting out enough fires? There weren't enough fires in Canada.
You start to realize like you're putting out fires that are like, for the most part, I mean, there was a bunch of times where we saved houses, but that's pretty rare. And mostly you're putting out small fires in the middle of nowhere that are no consequence, or you're putting out fires so that those trees can be cut down later. The pieces became like, I just wanted to have more effect. I actually looked at getting like police as well. I considered going that direction, but knew that I was like also vulnerable to my like environments where like I felt like working in that role wouldn't be my best setup. And then also wanted the capacity to lead and then sort of do things the way that I want to do them. And so the gym became that piece. So as my dedication and drive to help athletes at any level was, kind of discovered through that process of Wildland Fire and the training new recruits at Wildland Fire, and just that piece of like the effect you can have on someone else's longevity, someone else. This is why we all, I think maybe all started CrossFit, was just like, man, this is so awesome. And you want to kind of help and support as many people as you can down that path, And then as time went on, getting the chance to work with pro athletes, pro athlete is, is such a special thing, because you're like, there's so many pieces required for that person to get to where they get to. And not even to like, Justin at the top of the food chain is, I mean, the most incredible. But even just being able to, I mean, Jamie getting to the UFC, like, Ellie being a CrossFit Games athlete, like Trista, 17 years old, that girl trains before and after school every day on her own volition. It's amazing. No one's pushing to be there. She loves it. It's having a great time. I mean, that piece where they can do that with the dedication and the drive and maintain that through years. And like, other people are going to school and, furthering their education, setting themselves up better. And these people are like, they're bearing down on a dream. And so the opportunity to help somebody see their dream to fruition, I mean, is so fun.
Bearing down on a dream. Yeah, crazy. Linda, getting to something superficial here. Linda, when you saw that, were you like, oh, I can't wait to see my guys do Linda?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, didn't
it's like
go the way
Hinshaw seeing a running event. It's like Hinshaw seeing a running event. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with like, Boz I've known for a long time, and I'm so stoked with like what he's up to these days. I mean, that sandbag event last year at the games, that's arguably like, that's arguably one of the best Saturday nights of the CrossFit Games ever.
I agree. Like the execution of it, the presentation of it, the way
everything
the athletes
about
perform,
it.
Everything. Yeah.
Oh man. And then in the warm-up area, like athletes were like, holy frick. And they were like failing attempts at a way lighter weight. And then everyone went out there and just tore the fucking doors off. Like it like amazing. Like I think of like that sandbag event in with like, you remember like when Amanda came up on Friday night, like in LA, where it's like you're just like, you're watching, you knew in the moment that you're watching like something so special.
Right.
And it's like, so that sort of stuff is so exciting. And that, I mean, that the Capital event.
Yeah.
I mean, being able to even mimic that in your own gym and give it a try, you're just sort of like, this is ridiculous. This event is crazy. Like, it's the pieces that are like where CrossFit is at now and what those games athletes. I mean, if you're last at the games, you are a savage.
Yep.
Like it's and if you like, there are people who aren't getting to go to Madison who are incredible athletes.
Right.
And so being able to watch and to see that capacity displayed, I mean, so awesome. I always
just think of Adam Klink whenever I pre-CrossFit, he's got it, like the shit he did that mile. Do you know who that is? Adam Klink?
No, I don't know that name.
He did the sub 5-minute mile, 500-pound back squat, like just out there on the track. And it was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Totally. Yeah.
It's like,
it's incredible. Like the fact that you're getting CrossFitters now that are pushing on other people in their specialized sport should draw more attention than it does.
Right.
Like the fact that you're like having these, I mean, that
there's a true human capacity thing going on here that kind of transcends CrossFit, transcends the Olympics.
Absolutely.
Transcends. It's like, it's I don't want to put it up there with like what Honnold did, like climbing fucking Yosemite with no ropes. I mean, that's 1 in 8 billion. That's also batshit crazy. But it is, you're right. We're seeing the CrossFit really is its own special. It deserves not the right word, but we're lucky that we're interested in it.
Yeah. Oh man. Cross, like the community, knowing that there's this many people out there in the world who, I mean, working with CrossFitters is fucking awesome. I mean, it's like, if you're working with them, like, oh man, like people take for granted, I think maybe this isn't true, how motivated a CrossFitter is to learn. That if they want to seek information out, they seek that information out. They read books, they go get coaching, they book private sessions, they put in the time on their own. Like they adapt and figure out the skill set they want. Like it was interesting. Shane Sweat and I were talking about it not long ago. And he was saying, he's like, oh man, the first time CrossFitters showed up at Westside, I mean, we give out all the reading material. Hey, read this, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you have all these lifters show up and they're like, do you guys read it? You're like, of course not. And he's like, okay, how many people were able to get through like some of the books? Everyone in the group had got through all the material. And we're like, oh, okay. And just like engaging, like tons of smart questions. Like the CrossFit
baseline capacity that's like,
huge.
Although shouldn't be. I remember going to a gymnastics cert for the in 2008 or 8, maybe, filming. And it was the first time this gymnastics coach had ever worked with CrossFitters. Adrian was there.
Yeah.
Taking the course. And there were like 15 CrossFitters there. And I remember the gymnastics coach being like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, we've gone through all the material that I've had planned for 3 days and 2 hours. Like, because just everyone's capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was the coach? Was it Jeff Tucker?
Nope. Farrell.
Okay.
He was the guy who ended up having a lawsuit with someone ended up suing him because someone got injured at one of his events. It was completely ridiculous. Like, someone tried to run up a wall and do a flip like they did, like Fred Astaire style.
Yeah, yeah.
God, what happened to that guy? He was really smart. I can't remember his name. If I said his name, you probably remember. It was He was pre-Tucker gymnastics guy.
Right. Oh man. Yeah.
Allison NYC was there.
Yeah.
Adrian Bosman was there.
Yeah.
I got in trouble. I was filming the event, and I got in trouble at the event because I brought a 40-pound D-ball that I gotten from D-ball.
Yeah.
And I during the lunch break, I did a little impromptu workout, stair runs and D-ball slams with the 40-pound D-ball, which was insane back then. No one had a 40-pound D-ball.
Yeah.
And
oh man,
I got in trouble for doing that. It was a good time.
When I went to regionals for Can West in 09 as an athlete, and one of the events was clean and jerk, and I had a decent placing with I think I hit 205, and that was decent. And two of the guys hit 240, and people were like minds blown. Like, the other athletes, like, can you imagine the strength? 240-pound clean and jerk, incredible. You know, and now you're just like, man, like, it's amazing. It's so amazing to see how it's growing. Like, the sport is so exciting and awesome. I mean, the CrossFit athlete is just the example for all sports of, like, that athlete that puts, like, they're into their nutrition. They're taking their mobility and self-care crazy seriously. Like, they invest in all of their efforts across that broad spectrum, not just in their selection of movement patterns or time domains or those sort of pieces, but also just in everything they do. Like, I mean, man, like, wow, I mean, we've been across a gym for 14 years this October. I'm as motivated now as I was then.
Yeah, I sense it from you. And it sounds like good things keep happening to you that you've earned. What about kids? Do you have any kids classes?
Yeah. We have 60 plus, 18 and unders. Oh yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, our kid stuff's like,
I was expecting you to say no. You know, we have.
Oh, I love working with the kid stuff. It's so fun. I mean, the littlest kids are hilarious.
Right.
Our youngest stuff, we actually focus a lot on, like, base move patterns, but a lot of strongman stuff. So we took everything we had for adults and then made tiny versions of it. So we have, like, a tiny prowler, Iron Mine sandbags. Because remember those blue Iron Mine sandbags that used to be the standard before Rogue? So it was like world's strongest man. So we made tiny versions of those for the kids. We have tiny Atlas stones. They're like 20 pounds. They're actually cement still, but, like, miniature. I made logs for the kids that we made them out of, like, those, like, cardboard sauna tubes that you pour, like, cement posts with.
Yes.
So I took those, modified them, and it's like we got a 3-pound, like, kids log that I put, like, black Gorilla Tape over, so it looks like a black Rogue log. And and it's funny though, because the kids, the one thing you don't realize when you're building those is their little arms barely clear their heads.
Yes.
So you have to be careful that you, like, don't make it so the handles are too deep, or they actually can't lock out with the bar over their head.
It's interesting. I value things that, like, Rich Froning has shared, where he says, hey, kids should be doing sports and, like, outside playing.
Yeah.
But also there's a huge value to getting them into CrossFit. I always trick them into doing it. Like, you may have a time constraint, so you go out there, you warm up for 5 minutes, and you get to your workout, right? And you want to be done in 30 minutes because you got to help Ellie with her bench press. But with the kids, it's like I trick them. Like, hey, you're going to throw a tennis ball with your right hand and left hand 20 times. And then after 30 minutes, they're taking a 20-pound med ball and doing that strongman thing, like you said, where they, you know, they throw it over their head.
Yeah.
But if you just go out there and tell them, hey, we're going to start with that 20-pound medicine ball, one, it's dangerous, and two, it's work to them.
Yeah.
But you've started with a tennis ball and then a 2-pound D ball and then a 3-pound D ball, and you work your way up, and they're great. They're game. And I've been doing that for years now, and now my kids ask for it.
Yeah.
And so I agree with what Rich says, but I also think you can get them into CrossFit early.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I guess just, getting those baseline patterns. I mean, you know,
games. Games.
It's
right?
fun.
Games
And challenges. So like,
challenges, right.
Like the challenge of, pushing, pulling things is always high value. Like, you know, putting a bunch of plates on a sled and you're like, okay, let's see, like, you know, having a rope and have all of them work together. Like some of that opportunity to work as a team or as a couple of teams or in pairs. Like we try to combo it between like individual work and group work. And that's just stuff to keep it like, one, interesting, but two, also learning how to coordinate. Like if you left them to themselves, they can't pull the sled, but be like, can you try to put the breadcrumbs down where they can start to see like, I can't move this by myself, but if me and my friends work together, we can move this. And then having it start to be like being able to coordinate efforts where they can carry something in 2 or 3 people, or, you know, we even like, and the point isn't heavy. The point is like being able to like coordinate a plan. So moving a tire, you know, the littlest kids aren't going to be able to move a tire other than roll it. But if 2 of them pick it up or 3 of them pick it up like around its edge, then they can lift it together and they have to like work together. They can see when one person doesn't help, then it doesn't work. And yeah, I love that sort of stuff. The
are all the parents and members at your gym the parents of the kids?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay.
Like we have a lot of like, so our youngest is like 4 years old, but we might go back to 3 years old this fall, and our teens roll all the way through. So we have a huge volume of teens. I have quite a number of teens I work with individually, as well. With all kinds of different sports. I mean, we've got a ton of teens who are trying hard to get places. Yeah.
What did you think about this piece of equipment? This is the why do you think that they chose to, I have no proof, but I think that they chose to use this because it was easy to standardize across the world. Meaning you could put 30 of these in a box and with some tape on it and send it to Africa.
The shipping, it would be easy. Yes.
Right.
I don't.
Or are you disappointed in how that kind of in this played out? I was disappointed in how it played out.
As an event programmer, I guess
you've programmed events.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Strongman, CrossFit. Yeah, we've had events at our gym for the last 10 years.
Okay.
Love event programming. You like one of the things that's always in my mind.
And before you go on, let me preface. And you also love Adrian's programming. So this isn't to no one get all crazy. We're just talking about specific equipment. He already said he loves where Adrian's taking things.
100%. Yeah.
Right, okay.
And I would also always say that when people have complained, I mean, in the past, Dave's, Castro's taken a ton of criticism for his programming over the years.
Right.
And what I've always said to that is like, run your own event then. And then you get to do all the things you want to do. But it's when Dave's been in charge, when, Adrian's been in charge, it's theirs and they get to make those choices. And if you don't like them, 1, you don't have to participate. 2, you can have your own where you do whatever you want. So, that's what I would maybe preface that with. But one thing that always crosses my mind for events is the standardization and the opportunity for equipment issues. And that unfortunately that sled, although probably completely fine for training, opens a door for like just a bunch of issues that you wouldn't have if that was like a steel based sled or a steel body sled with a center pin. Because even stuff to the fact that those plates could slide off the back of that if that strap is loose, would you
just not use a sled if there was no other option? Would you have just switched to something else?
No, I would just use a steel sled. I like that.
No, but what if that's not an option? Would you have just gotten rid of the stimulus altogether?
Oh, yeah, like if the equipment couldn't be standardized.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why we don't really see that like overhead kettlebell swing show up in competition really anymore, right? Like, I think it's just because it opens too many doors for like problems in judging or that sort of stuff, right? So I think that with like something like that, like, yeah, it was kind of like, like you hate to know that, and it was also real expensive if you needed to make a change to it. So if like the front corner folded under, or it slid across like markings on the floor, or a change in texture from one lane to the next, if it was a event that had like a big decal on the floor, and that sort of stuff, that like, I mean, it was sort of like, it just opened the door for variance. And you got to be so cautious of that sort of stuff, especially the higher the level gets. I mean, the better the athletes, the more you've got to be able to be like, hey, we're going to have to split times by fractions of a second.
I mean, there are some pretty small options. This is a beautiful sled.
Yeah,
this Rogue Slice sled.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's if you scroll up a little bit, there's that that one there, that Rogue E sled, super light duty. I think that center pin comes out.
Where? Sorry, did I miss it already?
I think you scroll
past. Oh yeah. That thing's awesome, right?
Yeah, that little E sled, right? So it's like something like that would have been more my preference. But again, like I could be missing something inside of what the reason was. Like maybe they're like, hey, actually we tried it with a steel sled and it worked really badly on the rubber matting, or it lifted the rubber mats, like it gripped maybe it just gripped too hard.
Right.
And it raised the rubber mats in some situations, whereas the soft sled didn't.
That thing weighed 26 pounds, and this magic carpet weighs 4 pounds also. So it's for every 6 of these you mail. Although that other thing's pretty small, man.
But so it's just one where it's just like it just is one of those where it's tricky. And sometimes you just get, I mean, I've had events 100% where I've tested it, a dozen times, watched a dozen different athletes go through it, feel super confident. You get to the event day and you're like, well, fuck. Like, I just didn't see that coming, or this changed, or I don't know.
Were you ever weak?
Physically?
Yeah. Were you ever weak?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
As a little kid?
No. Recent. No, strength is not actually what I'm very good at, which I think is maybe why I've been able to be helpful to some people. Is just because there's like, I legit clearly remember a time, maybe 15 or 16 years ago, where Buddy and I had, we were working construction, finished the day.
You were 25 years old.
Yeah, somewhere in my mid 20s. So because I came from, I was running ultra distance, climbing all over the world, and then doing fires in the summer. And when I was doing wildland fire, I was part of a specialty group, so my body weight had to be under 170, and I just cared infinitely more about endurance and running and that kind of sport. All of my time was spent outside. But I legit remember getting a spot for my buddy on a 95-pound 1 rep max bench press.
Wow.
Yeah. No,
did you say 95?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now what's your bench?
Like 340.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, bench is still a struggle for me.
Shit.
Yeah. A while ago, there's actually, a while ago, I posted a video of me, when I went to Worlds for powerlifting in 2019, I posted a video of my deadlift, because it was the first time I hit like 630 in competition. I posted a video because I had a video from Jordan Glasser, who owns CrossFit Whistler, and I training at the rec center before he opened CrossFit Whistler. And I deadlift a 1 rep max doing a CrossFit total. I hit a max at 315, and like, I'm just like shaking and like, wobbling my way to the top of the lift. Right.
You doubled your deadlift in 10 years?
Yeah. About a little over 10 years. I think I doubled it. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, is there a weight where you can just see someone deadlifting and being like, that guy's on roids? For me, I would have thought it's 600 pounds, but you're saying it's not 600 pounds.
No, I think like, I actually have had this conversation before. And I think like, I mean, there's better people than me to answer this. My experience with like anything that down that path is zero.
Really?
So,
really?
yeah.
There's not, are clients honest with you too? Will clients tell you, hey,
you're out of the gym with us if you fail a test?
No
100%.
shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We have Olympic, like we have Olympic.
Why is that? Why?
This is not what we do.
Fascinating. Okay. I had no idea.
We take it super serious. Yeah.
For ethical or moral reasons, or more like, hey, it's just like, hey, we don't touch.
Well,
you
want
to keep it clean for the because you want to work with clean
who
athletes.
We work with.
You don't want to taint them. So it's not like you're against them. It's just like, hey, this isn't the gym for you.
This isn't what we do. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the things that's
is it a totally different sport? Like I heard Serena Williams say, you can't compare men's tennis and women's tennis. It's not even the same game. Or like a world-class 12-year-old tennis player, it's a totally different game than an 18-year-old world-class tennis player. It's almost like not even the same sport.
Yeah.
For people who know the sport.
Yeah.
The skills you need to win.
Yeah. If you're, I mean, as like
is juice lifting, is that significantly different than?
Yeah.
It is. Okay.
Those numbers are different. Like
not only the numbers, but just the as you say in Canada, the process. Like maybe you switch to 3 reps as opposed to 5 reps, as opposed to
your recover, your capacity to recover, right? So people are taking whatever they're taking to speed the recovery so they can work hard again. So it doesn't make, I mean, if you're whatever you're choosing to do, if you're doing that, I mean, it doesn't make you like lazy or weak. I mean, honestly, you're just recovering faster to go really hard again, but it's still breaking the rules. And one thing that's actually super progressive about powerlifting is, in my opinion, is that you've got tested and non-tested federations. So if you want to do all of the things, take all of the stuff and see how far down the rabbit hole goes, I mean, you can go do that and you just go compete in a non-tested federation and like get nuts, which is, I mean, it doesn't bother me at all that exists out there. Like that's that sport. But if you are taking stuff,
it's a curiosity, at least we all like it's a curiosity.
Man.
I don't want anyone to hurt themselves, but seeing someone lift 1,000 pounds is great. I'm interested in it. I'm not turning it off.
Yeah. I'll watch that. Yeah. 100%. But if you're taking stuff and then competing in a tested federation, I mean, you're a cheater and a fucking coward.
Right.
Because you're like, there is a place for you to go.
Right.
So like that sort of, and for me personally, like, I mean, I've been a clean athlete my entire life for, a whole bunch of reasons. One of those is that I need to know that, what the stimulus is. So I train our own programming. So the programming I put up for our gym, I do that. And because I want to know, it's one of the elements that goes into what I program the next week, and sort of making sure that all of our data points that are coming in are not affected by something like that is really important. So like when I look at Justin's numbers and we're turning things over, it's really awesome to be able to be like, okay, he did this, like 1 rep max are one thing, but then when you're like, what is he doing for his like hex press, or like where is his bent row at relative to our lifters? And sort of he would fall into the mix with our sort of like best male powerlifters for where he's at. So he's kind of falling into that mix, right? Because it's a clean gym. And so that data points are really high value to me, right? So I can be like, oh, this is comparable. So you're comparing, apples to apples.
Trish, I am a dirty athlete. Yeah, we are full, everyone knows that about you. No, Trish is not on the juice. Trish means actually dirty, like dirty, like impure thoughts. So going back to that question, is there a weight you can just see someone pull?
I think.
What do you think the most a clean athlete has pulled?
For a deadlift?
Yeah, for a deadlift.
Well, I mean,
you think there's been a 700-pound?
We've got guys who are. I mean, I'm fighting for that.
Wow.
Yeah. I have ambition of a 700 dead, 100%.
Do you have some weird body composition at that rate? Like your hamstrings are massive, or your ass is weird, or something weird's happening to your lower back?
No, I've got a strong back, big hamstrings, and I've got a good reach. So my bench is garbage. But my deadlift is a good lift for me. Like it's always been right from the start. So it's
Is
always
that
been a little better at.
of all the powerlifting moves, is the deadlift close, or the drugged athletes and the non-drugged athletes closest at the deadlift?
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah.
So the presses and the bench press, those guys take some pretty big leaps.
Well, I guess the other side too is you've got like physical gear too, right? Like by the time you put on a bench shirt or a squat suit. I mean, the world record squat is like, I think 1247, I want to say, but maybe I'm wrong.
And that's with no testing. That's just like get at it.
That's go for it.
Yeah.
That's do all the things.
The suit, I kind of don't. I don't respect it as a strength number. I respect it as a skill. I know it requires a skill.
Man.
But for some reason, I guess I don't respect it as a strength. I guess you're under the pressure still.
Oh man, it is. Yeah, I mean those guys are gangsters. Like I see that. It's worthy of respect. It's different. It's like, but it's like saying like front squat, back squat. Like it's different lifts, but I guess it's the difference
between being a good gunfighter and a street fighter. I'm not saying that there's no value in being a good gunfighter.
They're different. Different skill sets. Yeah, both. I mean, I love like watching. I mean, what it takes to get under a humongous bar in a suit, because like, I mean, I have a very low volume of experience on any kind of like suits, but we'll wear, like, our lifters will wear briefs. And that video that came up, that Justin, we were there in January, I had him do a squat set in briefs. So it's like
briefs, just like underwear that like help push you up, steel plated undies.
more than gaunch. Yeah, it's like a shorts. So it's shorts that like kind of are like, they're short shorts and they come up like pretty high, but they basically cross the hips. So imagine like
and they want to stay open. So when you put, can you even do an air squat in them? Can you even do no?
Yeah.
What are these things called?
Yeah, briefs. Yeah. So if you look, you can look up like Inzer Predator brief.
Do they have them? Do they sell them at Rogue?
I don't think so, actually.
Predator briefs. I just typed it in.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Crazy. How much weight do you need on them to make them go down?
Like I find I kind of squat below parallel, like around 250, 300.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Slingshot briefs, Predator,
Inzer Predator brief. Yeah, that's kind of I mean, in my opinion, is like the standard.
Inzer Predator briefs. Here they are.
Yeah, those ones right there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ones. Yeah.
Oh shit. Wow.
Yeah, that's them.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
They just where do you put those? Do they just stand on their own? They just stand.
Yeah.
On the floor
Totally. Yeah. They'll walk away. Yeah.
You don't fold those up with the rest of your underwear?
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah. So mine are like, I've got like a 2-ply like box stitch across the back of them, and you put the belt on. So they're high, so you can put the belt across, right? So the belt kind of acts as an anchor.
Yeah.
But like, so imagine squatting in a crazy tight pair of jeans would be.
Dude, Jesse, these come in 52 inches.
I don't think that's a waist size. I think that's a numeration.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
I like thinking of his waist size. Okay. So sorry. Just to say that again. So when you squat, what were you saying?
It's like squatting in a crazy tight pair of jean shorts. Like, like it's just like you get to the bottom, like, man, this feels great. So imagine like how a knee sleeve is. Like if you've ever worn knee sleeves.
Yeah.
Imagine an incredibly tight pair of like canvas knee sleeves, what that would look like.
Okay.
So I'm like a 530 back squat. I've squatted 600 in briefs to a box.
Wow.
I mean, I would probably say that I'm not a good box or brief squatter, and I would be also say that I was conservative. Like at 600, I was like, I'm good. Okay. Because when you're standing up, you've got all the weight. So it's still 600 pounds standing upright.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're very aware of the load. And then as you squat to the bottom, it just takes more and more of that weight. But just like knee sleeve, it means that everything else has to work extra hard. So, I mean, a pair of briefs.
It's got to be a head fuck too, because you're not strong enough to do it, but you have to mentally do it.
Well, and if you think about like, when you get two like magnets of the same polarity.
Yeah.
And you go to push them together, you know how they want to go like every other way. That's what happens when you put on gear. So you see, like, if you see a guy try to touch his chest with a bench shirt, and he's like lowering, it's getting closer, he's slowing down, it's harder, it takes forever to get there. It's because that bar wants to go anywhere else except where you want it to go.
Oh, it's doing that rounding.
It's a bubble. 100%.
Yeah.
So the place it would be happiest is on your belly or on your face. Right. And the minute you get out of position, it all happens real quick. So, I mean, people who are competing in gear, I mean, it's worthy of respect. They're under a tremendous amount of strain, pushing the edges of what the human body can sustain. Because like just because it's being taken up by like knee wraps or sleeves, belt and briefs, doesn't mean that everything else isn't having to do work. Right. I mean, that athlete is still standing there with 1,200 plus pounds on their back. Like it's incredible.
Why did you put Justin in those? Just constantly varied?
Yeah, as one piece, but I actually find briefs a really great mover for upper back strength. So it takes a ton off the hips, but then your back needs to be stronger. So like my deadlift moves, like I've moved my deadlift the most over 600 squatting speed days and briefs. So not my max days, but like my speed work, doing that in briefs. So I can load more weight on the barbell, use heavier bands, and found that the carryover is not necessarily higher on the squat, but certainly on the dead. And that's just been my experience with our athletes and then myself.
I mean, I had this lady on Jen Thompson.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Totally.
The powerlifting lady.
Yeah. Jen's incredible.
She does this thing. She talked about doing holds.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Are you an advocate of those also?
The isometric hold?
Yeah. Basically take more weight than you can squat off the bar, hold more weight take more weight off the bench than you can bench.
Yeah. I mean, have we used them? Yes. Do we use them regularly often? No. And the thing would be like, is there a time and a place? Absolutely. Definitely. I mean, the more tools in the toolbox, the better, right? Like if you see someone who's like constantly failing the squat in the same position, I mean, you watch it as a coach, you watch an athlete fail a squat, in the classic, like min max, like that half position out of the hole. So they turn around, they get halfway up and fail. Like, okay, you watch that one time, fine. You watch that repeatedly over time. I mean, that's your fault now. So the more tools as a coach you can have in your toolbox would be like, hey, why don't we try this? Or why don't we work a box squat? Or, the knees. I mean, the knees caving in on a squat. I mean, this is fixable. This is not a geometry issue or an issue with like, like this cannot be solved. You're like 100% this gets fixed. I mean, you've got weak hips. Like, where's your box squat at? How often are you box squatting? Like, what are you doing for ranges of motion? Like, like a box is an amazing addition to squatting, and it's not like, again, it's not like I expect to ever see a box squat come up in competition, but also if you have a back squat that's 300 pounds and your box squat is 150, I mean, there's something to work on there.
Is your gym still taking clients?
Yeah. We're pretty, it's busy these days. It's pretty busy. But we have
congratulations on that.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean,
are you having trouble finding coaches?
Yeah, always. I mean, we've got an incredible crew of coaches. But Squamish is a spicy area for like, it's very expensive living here. The cost of living is very high. And I mean, the gym's always one of those jobs where it's like, it's more driven by passion than it is by like, look at all the money.
Right.
So that's always like a balance. But I mean, we just had our first 2 coaches hit their 10-year coaching mark this month. And then our first coach, Ellen, she was our first coach to be coaching with us for 10 years. And then Jade just made 10 years this month.
And you're an affiliate. Cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Always. Yeah.
And why do you stay affiliated? Why keep the CrossFit name?
Because I guess a couple of reasons. I guess one thing would be that I would never be where I am today without CrossFit. And there's
a brand loyalty payment,
100%.
a tithing.
Yeah, that is for sure.
A moral
or
never integrity piece. Okay.
Yeah. Every year that comes and goes, I never think about do we need to remain affiliate? I mean, do we need to remain affiliate to do what we do? I mean, probably not. But that's not the reason. The reason is just like, I mean, I never touched a barbell before CrossFit. I found CrossFit when there was, I don't know how many gyms there were, maybe 1 or 2. Cause I was like a .com piece that my friend put me onto. He's like, hey, you should check this out. It was Jim Jones, if you remember.
Yeah.
Mark Twight.
Yeah. Mark Twight.
Yeah. So my first impression was like, my buddy sent me 2 websites because I burned I had a bunch of injuries from running. My shoulder had been repaired. I had a bunch of stuff going on that just wasn't at work anymore. And I had a day in the gym where went in, did fucking nothing. Like just read a magazine and won around, visit with people and left. And I was like, you actually did no things at the gym.
Wow.
And called my buddy from the payphone. And yeah, right. I mean, picture when we're talking here, right?
You threw in a couple dimes.
Yeah. And I was like, bro, I think I'm done. Like, I don't know where my athletics goes from here because I'm just like, I just don't have any drive to, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what am I fucking doing? My ankle's fucked. I could barely like walk to the grocery store without pain. My shoulder was repaired. My range was super limited. And he's like, dude, I just came across these 2 websites. Check them out. It was Jim Jones and CrossFit.com. And Jim Jones was the vibe and .com was the content. So you read like that. Do you read the original Jim Jones? Like,
yeah, like fuck you, stay away from our gym.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
yeah. Go fuck yourself. Like, you
CrossFit had a little bit of that too. In their contact, it said, please do not contact us.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really give a fuck about what you think.
Like those days, I was like, that's what you're looking. So, and you go to, and you're like, okay, well, I like, this is me for sure. I mean, I'm in my early 20s. You're like, that was my attitude for sure. Like, stand outside. Maybe we'll let you in. Maybe we don't. You're too blonde. You know, that Fight Club style. Right. And then .com was like,
but not for brand. I wouldn't say, I don't know about Mark Twight, but not for brand sake.
No,
but just kind of to weed out the morons. Like, hey, dude, there's plenty of stuff on here to keep you busy. You don't need to be like, I need some more attention over here. Like, fuck you.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, that was
get 100 air squats without unbroken before you fucking text us, you jackass.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with,
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, like, it was just like, I mean, that vibe was like right up my alley for sure. And it was one of the reasons why I gravitated to it.
And I was a pussy, by the way. I wasn't a tough guy at all. But like I kind of hated him for it.
Yeah.
I was just your typical Bay Area pussy.
Oh, man.
Well, but I also was intrigued by it. Like, really? What's behind door number 2?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I came in with an ego for sure and looked at it a couple times. I was like, okay, like, I mean, fuck, who cares? So I looked at it on my computer and I was like, okay, this workout was like December 1. I don't know. I can't remember when, maybe 05 or 06 or something like that.
Wow. That's old school.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I looked on the computer and it was Cindy. So it was like right before Christmas. I was living in Victoria, going to school. And I was like, yeah, my buddy's got a door frame pull-up bar upstairs. I was like, I'll go give this a try. Went up there, started a clock, 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. Got through it, came back downstairs. My girlfriend at the time was like, how was that? I was like, that was fucking hard. Like, I had to stop. And she's like, you had to stop. Like, what are you talking about? Like 20 minutes. You had to stop. You're like, yeah, I just couldn't do more pull-ups.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? And I have no idea. I can't remember what my score was at all. But I mean, that for me was like, one, it was insulting and offensive.
Right.
And I was just like,
these numbers are so little.
Yeah. You're like, I will do that again tomorrow. And so I started 3 on, 1 off. That lasted like 2 cycles. And I was like, that doesn't work because I'm not apparently good enough and couldn't do that. So then my buddies and I was like, I recruited friends at school that I was, I was in college at the time, recruited a couple of guys from school. We're like, hey, let's try doing some of these workouts. We'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday and do these CrossFit workouts. So I get up in the morning, open.com, look at the workout, scroll through to like, I think it had a section where it had movements. So it like, they had Sage Bergner doing clean and jerks and stuff like that. Yeah. And so I'd watch the video and I'd draw a stickman on a piece of paper because I'd never seen a clean and jerk.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, kettlebell. You're like, okay, that's some crazy Russian thing. So it's like, I guess we could hold a dumbbell.
What is this
like, on its end? Yeah, totally. Snatch. You're like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah. Right? Yeah. All the jokes,
Right.
And we just started doing that. And I did that all winter. And we started being able to do like 3 times a week, but we modified a ton. And people would ask, and like, I'd have like runners, like who I'd train with, like ask at that point, like, I mean, at one point I ran 125K, like race, right? Like I was running ultras and I was fit, but not CrossFit fit.
What's the least you ever weighed?
155 as an adult. Yeah.
And what's the most you've ever weighed?
223.
Okay, and 155 is like that's like lean and mean, ready to go fucking run
125K. That was not long before I ran it was called the death race. It's up in northern BC.
How tall are you?
5'10".
Oh wow. So just to flash forward real quick, this was all education for where you are today. It's like your life is clearly like, okay, everything I've done in my past has brought me today. Like you can see all the pieces.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, everything. Yeah, structure and order.
Elite at 155, elite at 2 whatever.
Yeah, organization, all the sort of data collection. Yeah, everything's helped.
So this you have a significant amount of loyalty to the opportunities CrossFit Inc. brought you. Man. And would you say that's why you pay your affiliate fees?
That's a big part. I mean,
that's the most common answer, by the way, I get.
Yeah.
Which is a tough pill to swallow if you're a businessman. Like they'll never accept that as an answer anywhere except for like the Catholic, church, right? Or like Greenpeace, like, go get those Japanese whaling ships. Here's my $50. You know what I mean? I want to save the whales. But like it's really weird that you pay the money for that. I respect it and I get it and I agree with it.
It feels like the right thing. I mean, because I think of what gets under my skin, and one of the things over the years that's got under my skin is, I mean, even Westside. So my experience with Westside, so the strongest fucking gym on the planet. These guys are tough and they're rough motherfuckers. But also, anytime I've ever asked for help or needed anything, that Louis has always supported. It's insane. I mean, you would call Westside Barbell and dial a phone up, and if he didn't answer and someone else answered, I remember leaving. I mean, like, hey, could I please speak to Lou? And they're like, oh, he's not in the office right now. Can I take a message and I'll call it back? And I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. So you leave your name and number, and 6 a.m. the next morning, you're like, this is Louis Simmons here. You called yesterday, and you're like, holy fuck, you're like, up a bit, like yes, sir. Yeah, totally. Yeah, try to find my notes and be like, I just had a couple of questions. And that piece was like, Westside was always credit where credit is due. And the same thing with Shane. I mean, I met Shane at the CrossFit like Westside seminar. The first, I think we went to the first or second one they offered.
Who's Shane?
Shane Sweat. So I met him there, and I was like, man, this guy is so much more eloquent with his explanation, and then just cold called him. I mean, they put their numbers up on the board and were like, here's our numbers, call us if you need anything. So I was like, fuck it. So I called and I was like, hey, is there any chance I could come and train with you? He's like, yeah, absolutely. And so I went out to Sweatshop the week that Big Jesse and I were at Jesse Ward and I went to Westside.
And he's on the L1 team still, right? Jesse Ward?
Yeah, okay. 100%. Yep. And the week that we did that, the Sunday before, I showed up at like Sweatshop Cincinnati just on a Sunday morning, and Shane met me there and spent the entire day with me one-on-one in the gym for no reason or money. And that's the culture that like my coaching was brought up in. And so when someone reaches out and they're like, hey, could you help me? I mean, I do everything I can to be like, of course, because I wouldn't be where I am today. Like I wouldn't be making any money doing this if it wasn't for CrossFit and Westside.
Do you think every sport needs a strength coach? Let me start.
Yes.
Sorry.
I feel like yes.
Okay. So let me go back a second. I should have built this up a little. Pretend like you didn't answer that.
Okay.
Does every CrossFit Games athlete need a Jesse BiFano?
Maybe, but maybe not. I mean, it depends what they need. So
okay, but that doesn't comport with what your first answer. Your first answer is every professional athlete needs a strength coach.
Yeah, I think strength, depending on how it's utilized, will benefit. I mean, we have one of our guys. So, for example, one of our athletes at the gym, Josh, is running a 200-mile race next month.
My God. And
he just competed in our powerlifting meet in April and hit an all-time on his deadlift at 405 like 3 weeks ago.
How old is he?
Good question. I mean, he's so youthful looking. I feel like early mid 30s, maybe.
Do you sleep on this 200-mile run, or it's straight?
I think he'll take he'll have naps. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But he's run 12 100-mile races. And so he is in the gym doing our like conjugate lifting, right? As a 200-mile runner.
Crazy.
We have mountain athletes. We have our pro athletes. We have everything from like kids trying to get to the NHL. Trying to get to
isn't that every kid in Canada?
Yeah, right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. We've got a couple of our athletes are in Europe right now doing like enduro mountain biking. So like Miranda just rode like I don't know, it was like she did a 600 plus K ride down in California like a month or two ago. And she's in the gym a couple times a week lifting. So, I mean, it depends on how you use it. There's ways you can use it and have it not be helpful at all. And there's other ways where, of course, it's going to be helpful.
It just can't have that UFC fighter be putting on weight.
Yeah. We can't be stacking on a ton of meat. Like that's not going to work for her, and it's not going to be effective, and it's not going to keep her fast and powerful.
Dang. I wonder, going back to the CrossFit thing, I wonder how they I wonder if they know that at HQ, that people are paying for loyalty and brand, like a brand loyalty. And I wonder how they grow the company.
Well, I think they're
hard to build. That's something that's slow. That's
definitely, it's
enduring. And you're the proof of that. It's enduring as a motherfucker.
Yeah.
But man, it's like, how do you tell your investors, oh, this is going to be a tough board meeting? Well, people only pay us because they like us.
But that's not totally true. So I would say that's a part of it for me. But the other part is like, I really believe in the games.
The CrossFit Games.
100%.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that's a consistent theme too. You like this pushing. I'll let you answer it too, since it's your words. But my understanding is you love this pushing the same way I do of human capacity. Let's see what this DNA, this fucking human being thing on planet Earth can do.
Yeah, because like what's CrossFit doing for me then with the CrossFit Games? Like past getting the opportunity to have like Justin, Ellie, Trista, like that sort of thing. What that's doing is how many people now show up at the gym. Like we just had 2 people start. They had their first CrossFit class yesterday, and they are so excited to do CrossFit because they've watched all the documentaries.
Right.
And they just were like, and they're normal people. They just love the documentaries. It looks like fun. Why would I not want to do that? It's like every other sport. I mean, do people play hockey or basketball or football because it's just like it's just fun? Like they watch their heroes on TV performing that and think that's awesome. How awesome is that? I would love to just do that. And you don't have to have I think that the Games is maybe taking criticism for being like, it's only for like people who aspire to being those athletes, but that's not true at all. I mean, people go play these sports and then watch them all weekend long because it's just, they love the sport. So I think
and also there's a difference in aspiring to be like them versus be them, right?
Yeah.
Like I aspired to be like Rich Froning the first time, like as I got to see him, but I didn't have any delusions of grandeur that I was going to the Games.
Totally.
But I was like, oh, I can do everything he can do. I can play in the same, sandbox.
Yeah, the same thing.
He'll build maybe a bigger sandcastle, but I'll build some shit like his.
Yeah. People don't sign up to run a marathon thinking they're going to win the marathon. They just do it because they're like, I would like to run. I would like to run far.
Right.
So like CrossFit is such a fantastic opportunity for that. And like, the community built around having a CrossFit competition in your gym or taking a group to a CrossFit competition, like that's invaluable. And whatever your training is, I feel like for development, no matter how good or poor you are at it, you have to be testing it. So if you're not applying some sort of testing metric to what you're up to, I mean, you're missing a learning opportunity. Right. Because a coach can sometimes be like, hey, you're a week here. This is what we need to develop. Time goes on. You go to an event, can't do any handstand push-ups, come back, you're like, okay, I'm now listening. You learn that from going to the event.
When you say testing, you know, it made me think of when I was 23 years old. I'd never been able to do a pull-up my whole life, and when I was 23 or 25 or something, I did my first pull-up.
Yeah.
And it was one of my friends who was a meth addict and steroid user. He was doing pull-ups in the backyard on a tree branch.
Yeah.
And we were both on ecstasy, just hanging out. It was the middle of the day, 2:00 in the afternoon, college kid. And he goes, "Hey, dude, it's not really a pull-up." And I go, "What do you mean?" And he grabbed his hands under my lats and squeezed. He goes, "Flex that muscle." Because I was on ecstasy, I could go straight there and fucking flex that muscle, and I went up.
Yeah.
Well, from that point, I went for like 5 years. I started climbing trees. And I'd never climbed trees in my life. But that was my test.
Yeah.
Someone would throw a Frisbee up in the tree at the park, or anytime anyone needed to go up into a tree ever for the next 5 years, I would go.
Yeah.
And I viewed it as a test.
Yeah, totally.
Because I had learned how to do a pull-up, and now I had confidence in my hands.
Totally. Yeah.
And so but I just bring this up because a test doesn't have to be stopwatch, counting reps. It has to do getting out of your comfort zone and trying new things.
Challenge.
You know what I mean? It's
you should you should never be afraid to come up short, fail, or I mean, if you're last place, if you can learn something, apply it, and be better for that, that's really the only thing you need to ask for. You know, is because that opportunity to learn, and competing is 100% an opportunity to learn in a different way than showing up every day and either participating in your sport or training for that sport without competition.
Yeah, for me, if I entered a competition, like for me, whenever I did the Open, it was always I could give 2% I cared where I placed, and 98% I cared that, like, holy shit, I did this 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
it was really that significant to me. Like, holy shit. But
absolutely,
I never played sports or anything as a kid. I was just
I mean, my motivator for when I ran the death race was just the challenge of overcoming this idea of running 125 kilometers without rest. Like, I mean, my buddy and I we ran it together, and we started training in January and raced it in July. So we did 6 months of training, and that whole time, that drive was just like, is this possible for me?
Did you almost tap on that race?
No, it went really well. Yeah,
it did.
Yeah, we did. I was like second in like the 20-29 age category, and it was really good. Yeah. No injuries, no issues. Motivated all the way to the end. Super awesome.
Heidi Kroom, documentaries and behind the scenes are why I started. CrossFit.
I think that's a lot of people's story. Like, I think that content's worth getting out there. So the idea that, I mean, if all of my affiliate fees went to supporting the CrossFit Games, I would have zero problems with that. And I mean, to be fair too, I think CrossFit does a lot more and offers a lot more with their that professional coach articles that come out every month. Like, I think they're putting out a ton of great content. It's like, I'm 14 years in. So it's not that, I mean, my learning process is still always an evolution, and I do read that content, but it's not the primary reason why for me. Like, credit where credit is due. And that's, a big piece. I mean, I love the community. I mean, I've got friends. I mean, Big Jesse, Curtis, Chris McDonald, like these guys go, Jason McDonald, Todd Widman, like, my level 2.
Some people.
Annie Stumpf was at he was one of the instructors at that level 2 that I took when I met you. And it was Nicole Carroll was there, and Boz. And, it's just like,
I remember that. And they would take you into the back room.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And all but
people would come out
3
crying.
of us passed. Yeah.
Totally. You passed.
I did. Yeah. I did. Yeah.
Oh yeah, shit. I remember that. People would come out crying.
Yeah. It was legit. Like,
Andy would say some crazy shit to people.
Yeah. I mean, that was the only time I ever met him, but I mean, I like that guy straight away.
He's pretty forthright.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The
Heidi Kroom, great interview. Please have him back. You know what I was thinking, Heidi? I'm trying to think how I can monetize him. No, did I say that out loud? It would be fun to bring him on the show with JR and Taylor and talk programming as the games programming comes out, and to hear Jesse's take on programming.
Oh, you want Adam for stuff. You got to get Adam in on things like that. I mean,
Adam gets really quiet. He's almost too humble. He gets really, when I've had him on the show, he gets really quiet.
I mean, his ability to analyze. I mean, I feel like his like 10 years producing games teams.
Yeah.
Is just developed like this ability for him to analyze and break things down where like there's pieces he looks at that I just am like, oh man, like,
okay, I got to give him another shot. I got to give him another shot. I feel like when I've had him on, we're too cantankerous for him. That he's like too humble for the group.
He's brilliant, man.
Yeah,
like, I mean, we
no
like
doubt.
He made like when I was down in Torian with Ellie. I mean, by the time we get there, all the warm ups are fully structured and laid out all the way to the end. Like, all those sort of pieces are like, you know, how he breaks down strategy and planning for the individual athlete for the event. Event to event is like, I mean, that can't be like, it's amazing. You know, like it's stuff where I'm like, he's like, oh, you talk to him. He's like, oh, this is this. And you're like, I mean, that's not where I got to, you know?
Right.
Like, I like, fuck, that's very insightful and right. And I was like, I didn't catch that at all. Like, I mean, that's where I, you know, such a privilege to work with him.
Maybe I'll tell him next time he comes on, drink 2 cups of coffee. And 3 of these guys on the show said something about your mom. I just want to let you know. Get him kind of wound up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure what would get. He's not a wound up guy.
No, he's not wound up.
He's consistent. Yeah,
he's a smiler.
Yeah,
he's a smiler. Hey, brother, this is fun. The last hour and a half went by faster than the first hour and a half. I really appreciate you, Jesse. I was excited to meet you. I suspected it was going to be easy, and you are so easy. Thank you for.
Cheers, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. This is my first podcast.
Oh, cool.
I haven't actually been on a podcast before.
You just host one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I had to start one because no one is interested in me.
Well, you're always welcome on this show. I could tell by the chat that people are stoked on you. I think people are going to love this. And I have a feeling that our paths will cross again. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Awesome.
All right, brother. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
He doesn't drink coffee. Well, there you go. That's the fucking problem. Sean Lenderman, thanks, Jesse. I love you. Oh, very, very, very intimate. Sevi trying to sneak the Sevan podcast onto the team. Yeah, fuck, get him on the team, take him back from the Justin's team, whatever. Dude, that dude would be. As we started scratching, we were getting more and more opinions out of him. I fucking dig that dude. Thank you, Heidi. I really enjoyed that guy. Good show. Stoked. Tomorrow's gonna be a fun show. I don't know how to pronounce the guy's name who's coming on. I should show you this guy's Instagram who's coming on tomorrow. His I think one of his mottos is not to live in an echo chamber. Sometimes I'm like, do I live in an echo chamber? And the echo chamber could just be the algorithm, right? I mean, it's even I bet you a lot of us, because we live in our own kind of echo chamber around this show, I bet you our algorithm shows a lot of the same shit. I mean, shit, I choose stuff to show that you guys send me. William Roysh, education. I disarm echo chambers through civil discourse and critical thinking. High school civics teacher in Los Angeles, host of Cylinder Radio podcast. These a little anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism talk bores me. I don't even see any anti-Semitism. It seems made up. Yes, you are a victim. Now what? Okay. Let's see. Let's play this one just to see.
Young people today are looking at all the ways that they've been dealt a bad hand, all the ways that they've been wronged, all the ways that they're a victim. And you know what? Yeah, you are. You want to look at that? You can see all the ways that you're a victim. But what is going to serve you? What is going to be best for you and your family and your community and your world? How is the best way you're going to solve is not to focus on that. It's true. And everyone can find ways that they're a victim. But how are you going to play that hand? And that's just something that I think is really missing from a lot of the narratives that young people are getting. A lot of the things that we see on Instagram, how you have to be perfect. You have to look this way. You have to do this kind
of. Getting a little bit of a Jim Carrey vibe from this dude. Hey, look at that gray patch on his head. That's like Angelo DiCicco had that, and then there was some basketball player. God, I don't know. Maybe when I was in my 20s or 30s, who had a patch like that on the top of his head. Someone will know his name.
Kind of stuff, or all the things that are wrong with you because you're too fat or you're too this, you're too that. And it's like that messaging catches up to kids. And the more that we can promote what you're saying, the more that we can promote what Anthony Robles is doing and Sydney Smith and all these people, like that's the message that these young people need to hear.
Yeah. So here we go. This guy's coming on tomorrow. I think it's going to be fun. Mike Preston, I don't see anti-Semitism. Laugh out loud. What the fuck? I don't. I never see it. The only anti-Semitism I see is this anti-Semitism that comes out of my mouth, and it's always in joke form. And my wife's Jewish, and it's not even anti-Semitism. I just never see it. What do you want? Why is that? What the fuck? Why is that funny? I just don't see it. I just don't. I don't. One time a guy bought a motorcycle from me and he asked me if I was trying to Jew him. And I wouldn't have even been offended by that in the slightest, except I have 3 little Jewish boys. And I was like, that kind of sucks that he said that. But I don't even think I don't think he was like, I don't think he's a Jew hater because of that. I think it's just part of the fucking vernacular. No one said, well, people don't go, oh my God, that's so gay because they hate gay people. Just somehow slipped into the vernacular. I mean, look at all the fucking rap music we listen to. I've used the N-word 347 million times, and I've never meant it as anything negative. I meant it as an endearing, loving term. Every single time. You know the one, N-I-G-G. You know what I'm talking about for those of you who are like, don't know. You guys know that one? You guys know that one? Anyone? Anyway. Popular in the rap vernacular. No, you don't know it? Good. I'm glad you don't know it. So, anyway. All right, I'm excited. And then on Friday, James Townsend. We're going to get to the bottom of this James Townsend character. I think James has lived an incredible life. It's going to be fun to hear his story. I'm kind of in the same way that I'm actually interested in building a closer friendship with James, so I can also monetize. Do shows with James during the games. I need to bring James on enough so that when people first come on, you kind of have to like bring them along, right? I have to be like, oh, so what do you think, JR? Oh, so what do you think, Taylor? And then once they've been on enough, you don't kind of have to do that as much. They'll just start interjecting. And James is still kind of, when he comes on the show, he's still in like polite mode. I got to get him out of that fucking polite mode. Oh, the fluffy duck guy, Susan just told me is scheduled on the 30th. Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. All right. I am trying, I'm trying to schedule a show with Tyler Watkins and John Young and Brian Spin and Mike Halpin and I don't know, I guess anyone, but I only need like 3 of them to show up. To do just a semifinals review show where we just dig into the semifinals, but I keep fucking it all up. I can't get situated. And the truth is because I have my buddy Greg's in town and I'm feeling I don't want to commit to anything after 10 a.m. in case he'll play with me, right? So it's like I'm gonna get off here and be like, so what are you doing? And like kind of like plant seeds like, hey, you want to go do something? And if he does, then I don't want to like have other shit. I already got all my kid stuff I like to do. So I'm struggling to you know how sometimes we do 2 podcasts in one day, and I'm struggling to do that while he's in town and he's been here for like 3 weeks. I know I need to, Ken. I know. I have to. So Okay. If you're listening now, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you leave a comment in the YouTube comments, all that stuff. How about the fact that no one juices at that dude's gym, or it's not appropriate? That caught me way off guard. That everyone had to juice. There was an interesting comment by Dan that I wanted to read. Oh, fuck it. Never mind. He was basically saying that's how when we were talking about the sleds, he said that's how you critique without being an asshole. I kind of wanted to push back on that a little bit, but I also appreciated his comment. Okay. Omar Canejo. Bye-bye.